All right.
What's up?
Thanks, Derek.
Look at you.
All right, bro. Hey, listen, man. This is going to be a great one this week because we're out here at the Marty Brennaman's going into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. We got, all the guys are back, all my buddies. Like, sometimes the buddies you take for granted when you're playing with them every day, and then all of a sudden your careers are over and you don't see them because everyone's, people are in Texas, California, all over the place.
Yeah.
And, so this has been a cool thing, getting back with people. But this guy that's with me today, man, let me give an introduction before we start going down memory lane. All-time Reds stage leader, 182 wins, domination, bro. I mean, 96, 97, buzzsaw two-seamer domination, huge curveball, wipeout slider, right? One of the best in the game. When this guy came in, you were like, this game's over, right? So love playing against him. Came up with him with the Cleveland Indians, which is unbelievable too. That's another story, another day. Played 11 years in the big leagues. Two-time All-Star. Went to the 2000 All-Star game, 2004 All-Star game. Just one of the best dudes you ever meet. University of Miami, absolute stud. My man, one of the greatest dudes I've ever played with. One of my really good friends, Danny Graves. Yeah, man.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, I'm telling you, I feel like I can play again.
Nice.
I feel like I might be able to get
I have one more achievement for you that might be the biggest achievement. Back in your second All-Star game was in Minute Maid, right? Was it in Texas?
Yes.
Or, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a young production assistant for ESPN back then, and me and one of my buddies who were just both trying to come up as producers, they sent us out to do field work, which was the first time we ever did that. And what that means is you got to go out there, you got to get sound from players. There were a bunch of vets, whatever. Nobody would talk to us. A guest canceled on the Baseball Tonight show, and we were losing our minds because we thought we were going to get in so much trouble. And all of a sudden I saw you, and you turn around and you're like, "Hey, fellas," and we look like probably like maniacs. We were like about to cry, and we were like, "Hey, Danny, could you just help us out? Do you mind?" And you're like, "Yeah, dudes, I'll do whatever you want." Dick's different, like, sound bites for us. Like, you're watching baseball tonight at the All-Star game, this and that. You did an interview with us. We finished that week, and 2 days after the game, I got promoted to associate producer, and you have had so much to do with that, I swear. You made us look so good. It's a fact, Sean, I swear. So thank you for that. I've been wanting to thank you for that for years, and so I'm glad I can finally do it here.
Dude, that is amazing. He told me you had something good to tell me today. That gives me chills. That is so awesome. Because, listen, and of course we're in this business now, and we know this side of it a little bit more. But I always respected what you guys did behind the scenes, and like anytime I had a chance to talk, I wanted to talk. I wanted to help you guys out, like because you guys made us look good. Yeah, by putting us out there. So, hey, man, I'm glad to be a part of that.
You know what's so
cool
about that, Cinch, is, Gravy, we know, like, and we all know in life, you never know, like, why not be kind? Why not treat people the way you want to be treated? You never know when you're helping a guy like Cinch, who was a young produder at the time, who you're helping him with some good stuff, or you're just being kind to people, and it matters, and it matters years later. You know what I mean? I think it's so cool.
It's stories like that, and we were talking earlier today, just if whatever you're doing, if one person feels good about what you did, then like it's a great feeling. Like, you feel like you've accomplished something. So
there's no doubt, and I think the greatest thing about life is, like, we all have a chance every day to impact somebody, whether it's your kids, whether it's your partner, your wife, your friends, a fan, whoever it is at work. Everyone in the world has a chance to impact somebody every day. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we looking for those moments?
Well, I mean, it takes zero talent to be kind.
That's zero,
right? It's like they always say, it takes zero talent to hustle. Yeah. Well, I wasn't fast, so I couldn't hustle. Zero talent to be kind. Like, oh my God, you could be nice.
So great, so great. All right, I want to go back, Gravy, a little bit because there's so much to talk about here. But let's go back to the University of Miami. Because, well, first off, before we get going, weren't you buddies with The Rock back in the day?
He's so mad at me, Chip. He's so mad at me about this.
We were playing the Mets one time, and The Rock came to, like, throw the first pitch out. He's like, "Hey, where's Danny Graves?" And Graves like, "Hey, what's up, Dwayne? How you doing?" And I was a big wrestling fan at the time and still am. And I was like, hey, did anyone get to see Dwayne Johnson? I heard he was here. Like, yeah, Gravy hogged him to himself in the dugout. We like, what the hell?
Well, wait a minute. You did that to us. Sean did that to us. We were at what is that place? The good Chinese or Tao, where or whatever. We're at Tao. You were there. I was there. Kevin Millar was there, and a bunch of like the producer types. And who sits next to us? Drew Brees. Like, I'm talking like 5,000 yards a year, Drew Brees. And we're all sitting there. Casey stands up and is like, hey, sure, Casey. Mayor's, whatever. Mayor's they start talking. They talk for like 15 minutes. And we're all sitting there like,
hey, what about
us? You introduce us? And sure enough, he's like, all right, great, man. I'll catch up with you later. Sits back at the table. We're all like, thanks a lot, bro. There you go. That's your penance.
So glad you figured that out. He's like, hey, I just talked to Drew Brees, and you're like, yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, we all saw it.
I loved you at Purdue. You're one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Hey, great seeing you, bro. We'll see you down the road. Hey, what's up, Chich? Millar. I remember Millar crushed me. He's like, bro, really? He's like, we like Drew Brees.
Millar didn't get up and say something himself.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Let me tell you about The Rock. So here's the thing. Like, yeah, we went to school together. We actually had some dumber school classes together.
Like, what? Do you remember the classes?
Communications.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You call me dumb?
No. We called it dumber school because we had to go to summer school so that we were eligible.
Summer school.
Yeah.
So good.
So, and it's so ironic that we were in communications classes, and now he's like the best actor, speaker in the world, and we're in this business,
That's so crazy.
What was he like? What was he like in college?
He was so cool, so laid back, kind of like the same now. Like when you see him doing skits on helping people out, he was that same way.
Really?
He was so kind, man, and his family. Like I got to meet his mother, and she is legit.
Legit.
And there's a reason why he's the way he is because his mother. Yeah. But so that incident. Chance at Shea Stadium, I wasn't like I was keeping The Rock to myself. I wasn't like,
there you were.
He had something else to do, or else I would have brought him into Clubhouse. But it's one of those things. Like he asked for me, wanted to see me, so
I'm like, we got Ken Griffey Jr. on the team. We got freaking Adam Dunn. We got me. I'm dominating. Like, hey, is Danny Graves around? What the hell's going on? Although you were a two-time All-Star at the time.
It's like, who's the little short fat guy?
Oh my God, so good. Yeah. So bring us back a little bit to Miami. So not only were you friends with The Rock, which I thought that's why I thought you were cool when I first met you, but also too, we'll go back. You were in the College World Series, right? And you got drafted and you blew out your ACL. Can you take us back to that and like what was going through your mind of all the things that were happening for you at the time?
Yeah, so that was 94, and those years is when the draft was right during the College World Series, usually the first week of the College World Series. So we were opening up on a Saturday. The Major League Draft was on a Thursday. So I get drafted 4th round by the Indians, and I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm going to be professional. Never going to school again. Yeah. So then the first game, we're losing. So I came in to get an inning just to, throw the 9th inning and get my feet wet again. And so there's a runner on third, ground ball back to me, and I get the runner in a rundown, and I give the ball up to Alex Cora, manager of the Red Sox. He's playing third base. I toss it to him, and I try to get out of the way of the runner, and my foot just got stuck. ACL snapped right there. Like I felt it. I heard it immediately. Like I'll never play baseball again.
Oh no!
They're carrying me off the field, and I got a picture at home. My hat's like this. They're carrying me off the field. I'm like, oh god!
Oh no! That's terrible.
Oh, devastated.
So what happened with the Indians out there? They just took you to the 4th round. They see you blow out your ACL. What happens? Who do you talk to?
Remember Jay Robertson?
Oh yeah, Jay Robertson,
scouting director at the time. He immediately called to check on me, see how I was, and he's like, "Hey, we don't want you to think this is gonna, hurt any of your signability right now. But we do want to have our doctors look at you and see where we're going." So as soon as I had surgery, I flew up to Cleveland when I was ready to fly, and they checked me out and said, "No, everything looks good, so we're going to sign you."
Wow, you must have been terrified. Were you terrified? You must have been terrified the whole week leading up to the meds.
Terrified. Right? Terrified. I mean, I honestly thought I had to go back to school again. Like I was going to go back to play another year of college, and it had been my senior year. And back then, if you're a senior,
senior year, it's like here's a plane ticket. Here's a Big Mac fries and a plane ticket. Go get it, kid.
Exactly. Oh, we might give you one of our hats.
Yeah. Wait, you want to fit a hat with size? 7 1/4?
Yeah. So I was scared to death. I'm telling you, it was the worst week of my college career.
So you rehabbed and came back, and you went to where your first year in the minors?
So it worked out great because I got to miss Watertown.
I played Watertown.
I know. The New York Penn League. I was supposed to go there. I got to miss that, and then they said spring training. We'll see how healthy you are, where you're at, and I ended up proving that I was in perfect shape, and I had to wear a big old knee brace the whole year, like Fernando Montez.
Oh my God, bro!
I've heard about this guy.
You have? Yeah, we had CC. This is so great. Let's go into Fernando Montez.
Let's do it.
We had CC on a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the Indians. What is he going to? Fernando Montez. He goes, how about the gases? Remember did you ever do fat camp? Because I remember one time I was sitting down, Manny Ramirez is on a bike with no seat. I'm like, why's the best hitter in baseball on no seat? Like Fernando Montez thinks he's fat. Yeah. So he's in fat camp. What do you remember about Fernando Montez?
Kevin Mitchell was in fat camp.
Wow.
But he got the 3-wheel bike.
He got the 3-wheel bike?
But he couldn't. There was no seat though. He didn't get the 2-wheel. He got 3-wheel, so he could ride around on the track. Right. Chain of legs.
Oh my God.
Fernando, the Warrior Run. The Warrior Run was the worst.
DC brought that up too.
Yeah,
DC brought up a Warrior Run.
I don't even want to describe what it is because I'll throw up right now.
It's so terrible.
But thankfully that year, that my first spring training, I had the knee brace just coming off ACL, so Fernando didn't make me do it.
Oh my God,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, but the next year when I was completely healthy, I had to do it, and it was the day that we had our physicals, and Dr. Sausage Fingers did the prostate check on everybody. I was 23 years old.
I was like, my prostate's fine. Why is your finger on my butt?
Yeah. Why are we doing this? And I'm 23 years old, and now I have the Warrior Run, and my cheeks are going like this because of Vaseline. Like, seriously, dude. It was terrible. Fernando he's an former Army Ranger, so he made us do like ridiculous stuff. We were exhausted during the stretch routine and the stretch agilities before we even played catch.
I remember my first spring training. I'm down there. Fernando's doing us, and I'm like, man, pro ball's hard. Like we're doing, and they're like, that's the warm up, guys. I'm like, what? Conditioning for the day. I'm freaking dying here. You know what I mean? I was telling us. You remember when we used to be in the pool and you'd fill up those polar water jugs and you'd have to hold it over your head? And I'm treading one. I'm like, is this Navy SEAL training? I was like, I'm gonna drown here. And it was like goggling on my head, and like he's like, stay up, Casey. I'm like, I'm freaking dying here. How's it going? How's it going? Down?
Well, he forgot to throw the towel on your face and make it look like you were drowning. Like you're drowning.
Waterboarding.
Torture.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
We can't talk about him anymore.
It's so great that you talk about Fernando.
Yeah.
So you go to Kinston, North Carolina, with arguably, I think, some of the greatest players in the minor league. Talk about the guys that were on that 95 Kinston team.
Yeah. So Bartolo Colon was our
jacked Bartolo Colon.
Jack. He was not fat. Like he was jacked. He had pecs, he had quads, like you could see his abs. I'm telling you, he was absolutely jacked.
That's amazing.
He was throwing 99 to 100. Like,
back when no one did.
When no one did, and he would do it like in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Like he would be doing it like the whole game. It was ridiculous. Crazy. He was just mowing people down. We had Richie Sexton at first.
Jeez.
Hitting bombs.
350 homers in the big leagues later.
Hitting bombzillas in Kinston. Einar Diaz was our starting catcher.
Played like 11, 12 years in the big leagues.
Everybody. Like nobody could steal off
This is their minor league team. This is how good the Indians were. They were the best team in the minors. Yeah. This is their single league team. They won the whole thing, but keep going.
So Enrique Wilson was our shortstop. Wow. Like 15 years. Bruce Avon was another guy who played in the big leagues for a while.
Yeah. Anyone else on the staff?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. We had Roland De La Maza. He never made it to the big leagues.
But just think about that. You, all-star. Richie Sexton, all-star. Enrique, impact player. NRDS, Bartolo Colon, all-star,
All-star.
played like 75 years, homer.
Cy Young.
Looks like he ate himself at the end of his career. The beginning of his career, he's Jack Diesel. At the end of his career, he was like.
I tell people he was jacked, and they're like, "Yeah, right."
I remember. I remember that.
Wow.
We're so big.
Yeah.
So after that year in Kinston, I got a great Danny Graves story. After that year in Kinston, we come to the Winter Development Program.
First ever.
First off, Mark Shapiro. I got to give a shout out to Mark Shapiro. What did Mark Shapiro mean for your development?
To me, he was the number one reason that I developed so quickly, because he had our backs, dude. Like, what he said was the truth, and it was going to happen.
Right.
Like, he wasn't beating around the bush, and like he would say, "This is what I want you to do. This is what I expect from you, and let's try to get it done." It wasn't like he was forcing things on you.
Right.
Like, I felt like he felt more to me like a parent.
Yeah.
Like just helping you along.
Yeah.
But this is the guy that made decisions on, you get to the next level. And I'll never forget, it was his decision to move me up to AA that year, and then move me up to AAA that year when everybody else thought it was too soon to move me up.
Wow.
It was my first year of pro ball, and I ended up getting to AAA because he believed in me.
Yeah.
And then they ended up trading me, and he called, and like I felt like he wanted to cry because I got traded.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want it to happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude,
so,
I want to parallel a story there because I didn't know that story about you. I almost have one of the same stories. When I was in the minor leagues, low A ball, I get there, I'm a second round pick. I come in and like I just hit 461 at Richmond. I'm leading the league. I won the Division I batting. So I come in the second week there with a hitting coach. It's like, "Hey man, you're not using your legs enough." And I'm like, "These guys are pro coaches. They must know what they're talking about." He's like, "I want you to get," because I stood tall. I'm 6'4". I stood tall. He's like, "Really use your legs. Get down." So I'm like starting to hit like this. I'm throwing a $143 out there. I can't hit the ball anywhere. I'm terrible, right? Joel Skinner comes up to me. He's like, "Case, why'd they pick you second round?" I go, "Well, I can hit." He said, "Well, tonight I want you to start hitting the way you do." So boom, I start hitting the way I do. I end up winning the batting title in Watertown. After the year, Mark Shapiro in their meetings is what he says, because I wasn't, I had my own style of hit.
Yeah.
He goes, "Listen, I want no one touching Sean Casey. Just let him hit the way he hits. No one talk hitting with him." Right? So no one ever talked hitting with me again. I won the batting title in Kinston 331. I hit 380 the next year. Right? And the only reason I say that is because it's ingenious.
Yeah.
Sometimes with young kids in the minor leagues, what do? They get you. They want to change you. They think they want to change you.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And it's just like, it's one of those things where, like, no, you don't need to change guys.
Right.
Let guys be themselves.
And that's because Mark. That was because Mark.
Totally because of Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now that's why I think the Blue Jays, if you're in Toronto and you're listening to this, Toronto Blue Jays are in great hands for a long time with Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, big time. So let's go to that Winter Development Program, because this is the first time I really meet Danny Graves. First time I'm like, is this kid 12? Wait.
I only shave once every 3 months right now, but back then I didn't shave the whole year. Like
they're like, that's Bartolo Colon, that's Russell Brandon, and that's Danny Graves. I'm like, I thought he was the bat player, so I thought he was somebody's son.
I thought he was the clubbing.
I'm like, oh my God, is he going to make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? They're like, no, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. I'm like, what? So it was so funny. So dude, Gravy's, grew up right outside Tampa, went to University of Miami. I mean, it's palm trees and sunshine for this guy his whole life. He freaking, doesn't even know what snow looks like. So we're in Cleveland at the Winter Development Program. I grew up in Pittsburgh, bro. I know snow, 4 or 5 months of the year, it seems like, right? So we come out of our first workout, and there had just been a snowstorm, right? So we're in this parking garage, on the upper level, and I look over at this guy, the guy I thought was was somebody's son. You can't see him. He looks like Darth Vader. He's got
He's all wrapped up.
He's got his hat pulled down. He's got one of the biggest jackets ever. He looks
like the George Costanza jacket.
That licks the light pole. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with this guy, Danny Graves, right? I was warm. So he comes out.
There you go.
He's got he looks like he's going skiing. I'm like, what's this guy doing? He comes over, and there's so much snow on his car, you could tell he doesn't know what to do. He's like, so he's brushing it off, and it looks flustered. I'm like, I've never seen this. Is unbelievable. Does he not know what's snow? So I go over. I'm like, bro, do you need some help? He's like, yeah, man, I've never seen this before. I don't know how to get this snow off my car. I'm like, hang on a second. I go into my car, I pull out one of those things you got in Pittsburgh, and you have to have it. I'm like,
yes. Yep.
I'm shaking up. I'm I'm picking the ice, and he's like stepping back like I'm about to do something wrong.
Like, I thought he was going to break my window open. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's awesome.
See, it pays to be nice, right? Now look at it.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell us about that, Greg. When that snow hit your car, like what were you thinking when you came out to it?
I'm like, how am I getting home? I can't walk. There was no cabs. Like, there's obviously no Uber back in the day.
Yeah.
Can't get a cab. Like, how are we supposed to get home? What are we going to do? And I had a Yukon, so it was four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I got four-wheel drive because I just wanted to say I had four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use four-wheel drive. What am I doing? So, like, to this day, he still hammers me about that.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's
unbelievable.
great.
So you got caught up in '96, right?
Yeah,
And
96.
then '97, how much time did you spend on that team? Because that was one of the best teams I think in baseball history
Wow,
that
yeah.
never won a World Series. The
Yeah.
'97 Indians.
Yeah, so 96, I got called up. I spent a couple months there. Well, about a month, and then I got sent down, and I called back up in September. Made the playoff roster. I warmed up. I'll tell you.
Did you really?
I warmed up. We were playing the Orioles in the first round.
Right.
And so David Wells was pitched against us.
Yeah.
And
And that was a nasty Orioles lineup too, right?
Yes.
Nasty.
Dude, they were
almost as good as your lineup.
yeah, and we just traded Eddie Murray to them. Like, so he was on their team, but Ripken, Brady Anderson, that was his 50 homer year, maybe.
Yeah.
BJ Surhoff. So
Yeah.
Alomar. Anyway, so
Wow.
we're down like 7-2, 7th or 8th inning. So they're like, I'll get Graves in, and I'm thinking I'm going in just to save the bullpen. And, so Albert Bell hits a 3-run jack.
Oh.
And they're like, sit him down.
Oh my God. Off Benitez? Was that the ball that like left the country off of Benitez?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sit him
I
down,
remember.
get Eric Plunk up, and I'm like, that was my only chance. So then, of course, I'm like, I'll get another chance. That was my only chance to ever pitch in a playoff game.
Oh my gosh, that was
No
That was
way.
it. That was
Wow.
it. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not like disgruntled about it. I think it's a funny story because I almost got a chance to get
That's
in there,
unbelievable.
but I didn't. So, anyways, 97.
Yeah.
I started the year in Buffalo.
Yep.
And got called up. I spent like 2 weeks on the big league team. My first appearance, I threw 4 innings against the White Sox.
Wow.
Albie Lopez got knocked out early, threw 4 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs.
Wow.
So they're like, oh, guess what? We're going to send you back down and make you a starter.
Uh-huh.
Well, Mark Shapiro was pissed.
Oh, dude.
He's like, I cannot believe this. You guys can't do this. You better not do this. Well, I get sent down. I end up tearing up my shoulder. So I go on to at the time, the VA disabled list. And so I get activated July 30th. I throw that day in AAA. July 31st, I get traded to the Reds. So I never got a chance to get called back up to that team. They end up going to the World Series.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
let me tell you,
Crazy.
I hated the Indians that year, and I was
Yeah.
Marlins. I wanted the Marlins to win so bad because they just traded me away. And
Yeah.
Then December, I get a playoff check.
Oh, did
I'm
you?
like, yes,
Go. That's amazing.
I got a little share of
You
it.
know what pisses me off about the Indian team? Now, '97, I got called up for the Indians. Like me, Richie Sexton, Enrique, we got called. We won the championship in Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
I get called up. I get up there, boom, first at bat, knock. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, the dreams come true. I don't have to get another hit, right? When you get,
Yeah.
like that, you get that first appearance. You're like, well, I'm in business, right? So I get another knock. I was talking about Jay Robertson. Jay Robertson says, I started off 2 for 3. He's like, hey, Case, make sure you get one more hit so that in the back of the baseball card it says 300 and not lower. I end up going over my next 7, and it says 2 for 10 with the Indians, like 200. I'm like, it's you know what I mean? So, but it's funny looking back because so I had 2 knocks for those guys. I played like 2 weeks. Not a playoff check. What? Or no, not a ring either.
No ring,
I kind of
right.
wanted a ring.
Yeah.
I worked with John Hart. John Hart cleaned it up. I wanted a ring. I'm like, the ground screw guys are getting rings. I'm like, that's cool, but like, did they get 2 knocks?
Right.
Did they drive in the water, get ground out against David Cohn to get a ribby?
Right.
No.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm still a little bitter about that. 'Cause you got the playoff check. I'm bitter you got a playoff check because I got you.
You didn't get a check?
You didn't even play on it. Did you play on it?
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
Did you pitch? Did you pitch? Oh, yeah, you're 4 innings. That's right.
Yeah.
You're 4 innings better than
No,
my
my
2
first appearance was 4 innings. I ended up with like maybe 11.
Okay, but I got 2 hits.
I
bro.
know. Your 2 hits in my 11 innings. When you see John Harvey, tell him I'll give him the money back. I want the ring. Seriously, I want the ring.
Can we go back and get a ring? Because you didn't get a ring either?
No.
Dude, you pitched 11 innings and no ring?
Yeah.
That's tired. I'm
11 innings,
sorry.
something like that.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
We got to ask John Harvey.
Yeah.
I'm going to look
Do
that
it.
up.
I'll call him. I see him at the network sometimes. I'm pissed
Yeah.
off now for both of them.
Yeah.
I'm pissed for myself, now I'm pissed for you.
Yeah.
Because Richie Sexton I talked about, like, I think Richie hit a couple bombs. I'm like, dude, you hit like 2-3 bombs.
He didn't get anything?
Nothing.
You know what it is? 'Cause
Wow.
You said 97. Yeah, I got a ring from Buffalo. You guys won
I
the
did
ring.
too.
Yeah.
I homered for you. I got that ring for you.
Yes.
Yeah, my bad.
Maybe that's why they didn't give us the.
Because we,
yeah.
got the Buffalo-
Yeah.
we got the Buffalo ring that they said was going to be worth 20 grand. It was worth like 20 bucks.
Yeah, $20. Yeah.
I think I have one of those. No, just
Yeah, seriously. Everyone has a
Everyone's got
Buffalo championship ring.
Right.
Oh,
So, bro,
man.
so you end
That's
up,
crazy.
You end up getting traded to the Reds.
Uh-huh.
What's crazy is I did too, right at that time. So we're reunited. We're reunited again in Cincy. What was that like for you when you got traded, though? What was going on there? What was that conversation?
So it was kind of a awful feeling, like getting traded because I've only played for the Indians. I was only in that organization. I only experienced Fernando Montez and
I didn't know any other. Lance Sewell.
Lance Sewell, yeah, completely different.
Completely different than Fernando.
Yeah. So when I got traded in '97. I'd just come off the disabled list, but I didn't think that I was ready. But they said, yeah, let's get you back out there and see what it's like and see what you feel like. But obviously it's because they wanted to trade me.
Yeah.
So I get traded. I start in AAA, Indianapolis at the time, and Booney's on the team.
Okay.
And so I'm all over the place now. So
I love it.
it's the story about this with Booney. Because I'm still feeling like I'm hurt, so
Right.
I'm trying to pitch through it just so I can get called back up. And we were in Nashville, and there was a runners on second and third. So there's a sac fly. Mike Cameron's on the other team, on the Nashville team.
Greatest teammates ever.
Ever. So
We love you, Cam. We love you, Cam.
he, I don't know who hit it, but anyways, there was sacrifice fly. So both runners tagged. Well, the runner from third tagged up too early. So we're setting up the appeal, like in appeal, they're like, make sure you step off and don't balk. And so I come set. Booty's standing at third. I come set, step off. He's waiting for the throw to tell the umpires that he left early. I go like this and lob it
Airmail it?
straight into the stand.
No way.
To the stand. Back then in Nashville, it was so close.
Oh, yeah.
And I freaking airmailed it, and he's like. Just lost it over.
Come on.
So that run counted, and the guy that tagged up also scored.
Oh.
Yes.
Wait, so explain this to me because I've never heard of this.
Second and third.
Okay. So the appeal, you can't appeal it again because you
appeal.
just.
Yeah.
Oh,
Couldn't appeal
No, you only
again.
get one shot.
Couldn't appeal again. And since I threw it in the stands, that runner that was on third now
Oh my God.
gets to go home.
That is
And I'm
such a
like,
great story.
And Booney, he was dogging me for so long about it. He's just like watching it go over his head. But I didn't want to say anything, but my arm was killing me, dude. I'm like, I can't even throw it 40 feet.
Oh my God.
So miraculously, I end up pitching pretty decent and getting some guys out, and then they call me up to Cincinnati. And that was Jim Bowden's thing when he traded for you.
You're coming up.
You're coming to big leagues.
Yeah.
So he brought me up, and I just got absolutely hammered. People were like crushing me. I remember I struck out Mark Grace. That was the highlight of my '97 call up at one time. And,
That's big time.
and he's
He's tough to strike out,
tough to
too.
strike out. But then
Do you remember what you threw him?
hammer. Yeah.
In the dirt or
It was a high hanging curveball. It wasn't a strike. But it was like it was like an Eric Gregg called third strike.
It was like 5 feet above
Yeah.
the field.
Greg.
Yeah. So he called it. So, but the rest of that year, it was just awful. Getting hammered, and my ERA was like a gazillion. It was terrible. So, as soon as the season ended, I told him my shoulder hurts. So they're like, all right, send you to Dr. Kremchek. 2 days later, Kremchek cleans me up. I come back in spring training.
Best doctor in the business, Kremchek.
Best
The best.
ever. Dr.
Best,
Kremchek is the
Dr.
best.
Kremchek.
He cleaned me up, and he's like, you'll be ready to go. And I'm like, are you sure? So I ended up staying in Cincinnati for the off season. Worked out with Mark Mann and Greg Lynn.
Oh, yeah, the trainers.
And I come back in the next year throwing 95 out of the chute.
Are you serious?
I'm like,
Whoa.
Wow.
So did you throw 95 before then?
I would touch it occasionally.
Wow.
Yeah. But, and I don't think they put like some horse.
No, but I
tendon
think-
in me, but they made me buy into like working harder and getting
stronger.
Yeah.
Older in shape and getting everything around it and protecting it.
Well, isn't that
Wow.
what happens with guys with Tommy John?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It seems
Yeah,
like
they come back
Tommy
stronger, they
John,
say.
okay, we're going to get your shoulders strong for the next 12
Yeah.
months, and you're going to come back throwing gas.
Yes.
Not saying it always works, but
But a lot of times it
a
does.
lot of times it does.
Yeah.
A lot of times it does.
You know, in college, I would touch 94, but I would sit like 92, 93.
Yeah.
Like couple 95s. But then when I came back in spring,
You're like 95. I remember 95 a lot.
I'm like,
Wow.
this
Yeah.
feels good. You know?
Can I go back to something real quick for both of you guys? I'll ask you both the same question for the audience at home who never played in big leagues. What is that feeling like when you walk in to a clubhouse and you walk into a room full of strangers, a couple of them are sitting there going, this guy's going to take my job. Like, what is that feeling like?
Yeah, so getting traded for me and going to a totally new team, guys that you don't know, or I mean, I knew a couple of guys, like I knew Aaron Boone when I got traded, and it's kind of just one of those things where you just try to fit in. You know, you know that other people are there to take your job, but you just try to fit in early. And like for me, it's like I didn't want people to hate me. Like,
Yeah, right.
You know?
How could they hate you, bro?
But I'm saying they didn't know me. They
Yeah,
didn't know me, and they knew me.
Like the nicest human alive.
But like if like there's guys that we played against that we just thought were douchebags.
Yeah.
Then you meet them or play with them, and you're like,
That's a good dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't come across as a douchebag.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of try to fit in early.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Well, dude, I've told this story before, but with Gravy here, I got to tell it again. So I get traded over to the Reds, and you know, I'm traded 14 hours before opening day.
Yes.
They traded Dave Burba.
Dave
for me.
Burba, yeah.
What was the reaction like when they traded Burba? Like,
What are we doing here? That's our opening day starter. It wasn't like he was just like one of the guys on the staff.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was not a knock against
No,
you.
no,
Like
I
who
would've
got
been, what the hell?
Yeah, the opening day starter.
That's
And
amazing.
we just traded him away. Now who's the opening day
Yeah.
starter? So Mike Remlinger was the opening day starter.
yeah.
Left-handed reliever.
And then like, who you traded for? Oh, first base prospect. What?
Yeah. Yeah, which
That's
turned
made
out to be
crazy.
one of Jim Bowden's best trades ever.
Yeah.
You know?
That was
Yeah.
great. So I come in, bro. You'll appreciate this story. I come in, boom. Remember in the old Synergy field that the cab could pull into the tunnel?
Yes.
And drop you off like, you're like,
Right at the door.
where's the clubhouse? They're like, that door's the clubhouse. You're like, oh my God, it's unbelievable.
That's crazy.
So I open up the door, open up the door of the clubhouse, and there's Johnny Bench sitting there. And he's like, what the hell, Rook? You know, you're late for the season.
No.
Yeah, because everyone's out. You guys are already at BP. And I'm like, oh my God, I got my Indians bags. Like, I'm so flustered. Next thing I know, there's a naked Pete Harnisch, and I don't know Harnisch at the time. You know where I'm going with this. He's coming right at me. He's like, hey, has anyone seen my toothbrush? Has anyone seen my toothbrush? And in classic Harnisch form, it's sticking out his butt. Right? So I'm like, what's this guy? Why is he yelling about his toothbrush? He goes walking by, and there's a toothbrush hanging out Harnisch's butt. I'm like, I don't know if I got traded to the right team. I got Johnny Bench yelling at me. I got Pete Harnisch walking with a toothbrush hanging out his butt on his way to the bathroom. Like, this is
Oh my
unbelievable.
God.
Trying to distract me from his onion bag.
Wait,
Oh
was Danny, were you there with like all the Marge shot like circus stuff, or was she gone by then?
No, I was there. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we used to go. You were there when we
Go to
used
her house?
Go to her house at the end of the season for like a fundraiser. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
And we didn't have to dress up, and our wives at the time
Yeah.
had to go with us, so they had to be all
Yeah.
fancied and
We were
and
full suit.
gowned.
Had to be mandatory. It's the only mandatory.
Really?
Yeah. So we were told that rookies got to get up on the elephant and ride the elephant around the yard. And I was like hiding the whole time. I didn't get on the
No,
elephant.
it was a real elephant.
A real elephant.
A real elephant with a saddle. And like,
Yeah.
you walk in and Mark Shot would have a freaking Bloody Mary in her hand. She's like, hey, honey, are you going to get on the elephant? I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Bloody Mary, you made it sound nice. It was like straight whiskey, man.
Yeah,
It was
it's
like,
like, just say whiskey with a touch of V8.
yeah. With a touch of ice. She had a splash of ice in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My dad, when I first got traded here, Mark Shot's like, Hey, honey, are your parents here? I'm like, yeah. She's like, send them up to the box. So she goes up to the box, and my dad's not a real big drinker. And she's like, hey, how you doing? Great, Dad. You want a bloody? And my dad's like, sure. I guess I'm with Mark Shaw. I got to get a bloody. Boom. He's sipping on a bloody. She's like, boom. He's like, another bloody. Boom. She's like, 8 bloodies down. My dad's like, what the hell is going on here? 4th inning, Mark shots 8 bloodies down. My dad's like sipping on it. He doesn't know what to do. My dad's hammered by the 5th. He's like, it was a great time.
Amazing.
But it was crazy. We go to Mark Shot's house.
Yeah.
You're riding the elephant.
Yeah.
We're
Bunch of ballers there, like big rich people. Like
yeah.
What was the name of our Indian Hills?
Oh yeah, Indian Hills. Yeah.
That's where all the money is.
Big money. It's where Kremchuk lives.
Yeah. He's big money.
He's shoulder surgery in mine too. He's like, I'm gonna buy a house in Indian Hill.
Yeah. And I'm gonna buy some Mercedes. And yeah. He's big time.
But that was a classic. Mark Shot, all that stuff, and for me coming into the clubhouse, same kind of deal. I had that, not knowing anybody. It's funny you say Booney. He was the one guy I knew too, because we were in the minors together. We were all kind of the same age. But dude, so we're here. Obviously, we're at the Hall of Fame. That's why we have this nice bag behind us.
Yeah, that looks great.
Right?
Yeah, that's real.
And I made both beds. I made both beds for this episode. Anyway, that is real.
It looks great.
Did you sleep in both of them? I slept in them. I did sleep in both. I think I slept walk last. No, it's a true story.
Oh no.
No, but listen to this. I slept in that bed last night
And woke up.
took a piss, and I couldn't see. It was so dark. I walked over, and I was in this bed. I'm like, something doesn't feel right. So I slept in this bed. I always piss twice at night. I slept in this bed. When I got up for my next piss, I went back to the other bed. True story.
I believe that, Chinch. I'm telling you, if there's a camera in here, it would be exactly like that.
Oh my God.
So we're here. We meet up last night, and one of the big reasons we're here, bro, like coming into that '99 team.
Yeah.
Last night I hadn't seen Pokey Reese in so long. The meat hook, Dimitri Young was there. Greg Vaughn, probably one of the greatest teammates of all time. Hal Morris, the Snake, was up there. Just so many unbelievable guys, dude, on that '99 team. Like, let's talk, bro, a little bit about that team. Like, what do you remember about that club, man?
One thing that sticks out, like we were so tight as a team that so many of us that were represented by Nike, we all went and bought the same Nike shoes from the mall because we all wanted to look alike. And I got pictures too, like with me and Nagel having the same shoes on. Like they were like we were so tight, that team, because there were no cliques. Everybody got along with everybody. Greg Vaughn changed the facial hair rule for the Reds that year.
Greg Vaughn changed the. I talked to him about this last night. I go, Vaughn, how is it to know that 20 years later, that the guys still have facial hair because of you? And what he said was, Bowden traded for Vaughn, and Vaughn came from San Diego, had the goatee and everything, and he's like, hey, no facial hair with this. You got to shave it. And I think it was at the time Marge was suspended, wasn't it? Whatever it was. And Bowden said, hey, you got to shave your facial hair. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. He's like, I'm not shaving the facial hair. He goes, my kids have never seen me without facial hair. I'm keeping it. So Jim Bowden was like, all right, cool. Let's drop the rule that's been around for 5,000 years for the Reds.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's how we ended up, getting the facial hair. It was Greg Vaughn. Talk about leadership out the gates.
Yeah, and it wasn't him. It wasn't him being a jerk either. He just, my kids never see me without facial hair. So that dude was an amazing leader. You can't find another one in baseball, especially our days, that I've ever played with that was much of a leader as he was. And, we both played with Barry Larkin for most of our career, and great guy, great leader, captain. But it was a different leadership that Bonnie had. And when he spoke, boy, it was like, it was like E.F. Hutton, man.
Yeah.
Remember those commercials?
Yeah. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Well, it was funny because Lark was the guy you're like, that's Barry Larkin. The respect factor for Lark, it was just unbelievable. So we had so many good leaders in that team. But when Bonnie came in, he was that kind of vocal leader. Hey, Case, hey, Gravy, come on, let's go get him back. What I loved about Bonnie, too, there was a time he was hitting 210, 220. He never changed.
Never.
He was the guy. You knew what you were getting with Greg Vaughn every day. You knew he was coming. You knew he was in your corner. You knew, and down the stretch when we needed him, how many big homers did he have, like in August, September?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Big hit after big hit after big hit.
And he was the guy, like, I remember the first couple of months of the season, like, there would be runners on base, and he'd strike out. He didn't change. Like, he knew it was a big moment. He struck out. Okay, you got me this time, and they get him again, and then same Greg Vaughn, go out there. All right, guys, let's get him, boys, and like that's what he did. Like he motivated us by the way that he played the game, you know, and he definitely carried us the last.
And the mix that we had with young guys, we had you, me, Pokey, Dimitri, Booney. You know, we were Steinsy. Remember? Steinsy, Chris Steins. Great story about Chris Steins. Steins is great. You know, and he played all over the place. But remember when Booney got hurt? Booney went down for a couple weeks, and they played Steinsy, and Steinsy comes like hitting 370, just raking. I remember one day he went like, you know, he was like, remember he was bitching because he was playing too much. He comes in, he grounds out. He's like 0 for 3. He comes in, and he's like, bench me or trade me.
What? That's amazing.
Bench me or trade me.
That's the best line ever.
Unbelievable.
It's just so good. He's like, I don't get paid enough to be playing every day and freaking tell Booney to get back. Bench me or trade me.
That was so awesome.
It was so great.
That team, like, even like we had Mark Lewis, who was a backup, like infielder. Just
Eddie Thompson,
Brian Johnson.
Like
that team just had like there were no douchebags on that team.
No douchebags.
Ron Malone was
big wig. Jeffrey Hammonds, Michael Tucker. Bone was I told Bone whenever I'd hold on Bone at first after we lived, I go Ham Bone. I go, you're the coolest dude I've ever met in my life. You're like the coolest guy going. Oh, what's up, man? What's up, baby boy? You know, I'm like, damn, Hammy, I'm Ham Bone. You're the coolest guy going.
I called him cool. That's what I like. Everybody called him Bone. I called him cool because he was such a cool dude. I remember that year he came in a lot of times for defensive purposes late in the game when I was pitching. David DeLucci, I'll never forget when he was with Arizona. He freaking raked one off me at Synergy. Right center field. I'm like, oh my gosh, this ball's gone. It's way gone. Next thing you know, Ham Bone is up, jumping over the fence, robbing it, bringing it back, and I'm like, Ham, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He's like, yeah, you know, man, that's just what I do. It's like so cool, awesome. Man. Like it didn't faze him at all. He's like, that's just what I do.
That's so
Case,
great.
can I stop right there where you're at when you're talking about the hair and everything else? And Danny, I remember I was in college playing baseball, and you guys were like an inspiration to like the next generation of baseball players, because you guys probably agree. Growing up, it's like you didn't even change your stirrups. Everybody looked the same. Everybody dressed the same. Maybe some guy had a mustache or some guy didn't, but you guys were inked up. You were all dyeing your hair at different times, different ways, and like that was such an inspiration to like kids in high school and college. But can you talk a little bit about how your culture of just like you were all kids playing a grown man's game, I guess, at the time, you know?
I'll tell you one thing, Chetch. This 99 team, we created the bounce at home plate.
No. Oh, documented. We created the bounce.
Tell the story.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of walk-offs that year. Just like we were just the cliche of we were Brazilian and never giving up. It sounds so cheesy, but I'm telling you, that team, it didn't matter what score was. We were going to give a good run.
Yeah, you have to get 27 ounce against them.
Legit 27 ounce. And so whenever we'd walk them off, like the whole team would just go out to the home plate and bounce.
We start bouncing. It's up, and it's documented. The 99 Reds started to bounce. Now, I thought about this the other day. In one of the softball college World Series girls, somebody walked it off and they were bouncing. And I'm like, dude, the 99 Reds created the bounce for Major League Baseball for all time. It just was so cool.
Anytime you see walk off, you're gonna think of that.
I will. That's awesome.
Yeah. And honest to God, nobody did that until we did.
But that's who we were. Yeah. That's who we were. Like, there was such a great mix of veteran guys and young guys, and like Mike Cameron too.
Yeah.
I mean, Cam. I mean, I still listen to DMX. Remember DMX? Because I remember Cam would get the music going. I'm like, I love DMX. This is all we listen to. 99 Reds. We just listen to DMX. I know every song. Yeah. You know, and like Cam was the music guy. You know, you look back at Harnisch. I mean, Pete Harnisch used to take us. Remember Chicago? He'd be like, all right, boys. Yeah.
Geno's East.
Yeah, Geno's East. We'd be like bags in the lobby, back in the lobby 5 minutes, boom, off to Geno's East.
Yeah.
We'd have the whole team there. Yeah. Whole team, and we would eat so much pizza. It was ridiculous.
And then, or we would go to Ron of Japan's down the street, and then have to like sprint home back to the hotel because your boiler was kicking. Like, if you were walking home, You were going to crack your pants.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
But those guys taught us how to be veterans because, like, Pete, you never paid when Harnisch was around.
Right.
When we went for suits, I remember Barry Larkin and Pete and those guys taking us for suits in New York.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why.
I
had this, like, pimp suit. I never forget, like, Michael Tucker, like, I think he helped me buy a suit. And it looked like one of those Shaq suits that comes down. But, like, I never owned a suit because I was just a slob at the time. They're like, hey, here, get this suitcase. They're nice. But it was like it looked like a trench coat.
Yeah.
So, like, all the guys would come on, and here comes me, Michael Tucker. You know, and I'm like, I'm this suit-looking guy. Legit. They're like, you look like a tool, but it's all right.
That it was like, Casey had this thing back in the day. Like, I would bring a different pair of jeans and a different shirt for every single day of the road trip. Casey's jeans would start walking by the 4th day of the road trip. We wore the same jeans every day. And he's like, these are legit, bro. These are legit. So, but I wish I would have done that now because I wasted all these clothes and washed them too many times. But that would have been the best way to go. But they were seriously, they were all stiff and like trying to walk away.
Well, I remember Pat Watkins. One of our first years in the big leagues, we come out and Waddy and I and Mike Frank were rooming. We come out, we're like, okay, we gotta get to the yard. Well, it's a 7-day road trip. Waddy's got a huge bag, so does Mike Frank. I got a backpack. And Pat Watkins is like, hey, bro, you gotta go get your bag. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, your bag. We got a 7-day road trip. I'm like, I got it right here, bro.
Okay.
What's in there? I go, 2 pair of underwear, pair of jeans, freaking couple of shirts.
I mean, this is great. Chich, this is great. This happened 3 hours ago. So we're meeting down in the lobby to go eat breakfast, and for this event that we're doing tonight, you know, we got the little softball game going. So we're supposed to bring our stuff, our equipment, and our change of clothes and all that down to the Hall of Fame people, and they're going to take it to the stadium for us later. So I come down with this bag with all my stuff in it, and Casey comes down. He's got shoes and his gloves. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, what am I supposed to bring? I said, well, I don't know. But like, they are giving us stuff to wear, but I brought shoes, I brought shower shoes, I brought underwear, I brought an undershirt. So he's like, hold on a minute. So he went back up to his room and got an undershirt. So, it's like,
we were talking right before he flew out. I felt like my mother. I was going, you have your red jacket? Do you have your plugs for your computer?
You had to ask him that?
I asked him that because if somebody doesn't, what is this? What was that?
You want towels?
I was hoping that was going to happen. I'm glad it did.
He shows up last night at the thing. It's from 7 to 9, and he shows up at like 8:30. It wasn't that late, about 8 o'clock. Yeah, he got here late, which I knew that. I knew he was coming late, but everybody's like, where's Casey? Is Casey coming? So he shows up, and, you know, all the Hall of Fame guys got their big red jackets and fancy shirts, and he's like, hey, they told me to wear this. And then he just goes, but I got a T-shirt on underneath.
Stop pictures.
I had the red jacket on with a T-shirt. I was like, hey.
I know, I saw. You look like Don Johnson.
I walk up to David Weathers. Was it John Reedley?
Yeah.
John Reedley and Gravy. I'm like, oh, man, look at these guys. I'm like, oh, Steve and Gravy is so excited. Stormy Weathers and Reedley. I walk up, and it was like you hit your first home run in the big leagues when no one responds. So I'm like, hey, what's up, fellas? And they're just like, no response. And I'm like, okay, that's not cool. And then Weathers is like, dude, do we have to have a red jacket to be here? I was like, hey, don't get better, get better. That's what Aaron Boone told me one time.
Yeah. So we saw him coming, and Weathers was like, all right, Casey's coming. Don't say a word to him. Don't even say anything. So we tried so hard not to say anything,
Oh,
but
my God.
it only lasted seconds.
So crazy.
You guys just pick up right where you left off when you're all together. It's just like you're back in the clubhouse again.
It really was.
It was
really
unbelievable.
felt like that,
It literally felt like we saw each other yesterday. And that's the greatest thing about this sport, playing in the big leagues. I spend more time with Gravy than I did my family, and vice versa.
100%,
So,
yeah.
you know, even though it's a stressful job and you're getting after it every night, the heartfelt connection, the relationships you develop are lifelong. Nothing proved it to me more than last night. Just seeing all the guys, like you know, and right away we're ragging on each other, we're comparing each other, crushing each other, you know. And then Dimitri and Pokey come over, and it was just awesome, man. It's gonna be so cool. It's just so cool seeing everybody. So awesome. But that '99 team, Take us back to that Milwaukee series, dude. Like, yeah, man, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
All these years later,
Yeah.
that series still bothers me.
Me too.
Still bothers me.
That 99 team as a whole, to me, was the best team in the history of baseball that never made it out of the regular season.
Yes.
Never made it to the playoffs because, we had 96 wins. All we had to do is win 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee, and they were the worst team in baseball.
Yeah, and they wanted to go home, too.
They were ready to go home.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the worst part of it was the third game, the must-win game that Pete Harnisch was starting. And it was raining and it was cold. We had like that 6-hour rain delay.
Yeah. We watched every NFL football game you could watch.
Yeah.
I had like 8 bratwursts.
But the worst part was like Harnisch. That was kind of the time that he was struggling a little bit with, anxiety.
Yeah.
He quit dipping, so he's going through. Like he used to come to my room. We used to like talk to each other about anxiety and stuff,
Right.
and having to wait 6 hours for him was
Yeah.
the worst feeling ever.
Yeah.
But he ended up pitching great,
Dominated.
dominated that game, and but that whole series.
Well, what sucked about that, too, is, first off, it was the perfect storm of crap for us.
Yeah.
The Astros had to sweep.
Yeah.
The Mets had to sweep the Pirates, and Brian Giles had just gotten hurt.
Yeah.
So the Mets had to sweep the Pirates, the Astros had to sweep, and all we had to do was win 2 out of 3 and we're in. Even if they swept, we're in. So what happens is we lose the first 2 to Milwaukee, and we watch the Astros-Mets game. If they win those games, if one of them loses, we're in.
Yeah.
If we win, we're in. But they both win. So now we have to win. Yeah. And I think that's why we pitched Harnisch.
Yeah.
We had to pitch Harnisch on the last game of the year. He was our best pitcher just to get in.
Yeah. If we would have already been in, we wouldn't even have played that game.
We wouldn't have played the game.
Milwaukee
Exactly.
would have been like, we're going home.
7-8 hour rain delay. It was freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But it hurts, man. It still
hurts.
It still hurts.
You can see it in both of your faces right now how much that
Oh, it does.
bothers you.
Still.
Yeah. Anytime I'm back up in Cincinnati, like people talk about the 99 team more than anything. And I know the 90 World Series team was legit. From the start of the season to the end of the season, they were in first place. They were swept, the A's, whatever. But people want to talk about the 99 team.
Dude.
They always want to talk about that.
I think this city fell in love with that team because we had so many good guys in that team. Why wouldn't you? When we go to that game 163, I thought it was a real tribute to the Cincinnati Reds fans. 60,000 people, 60,000 walk-ups like that. Like it was unbelievable. We ended up facing Leiter and Edgardo Alfonso hit that 2-run, 3-run homer. Took the wind out of the place. But what an unbelievable run, man! Like I want to go back there. If I could go back to one place in my life, I'm 47 now. Yeah. If I could go back, just that 99 team, dude. Like you could never reinvent the magic that we had on that team. 96 wins. We were supposed to finish last, I think.
Yeah. We just and remember we started that season off 0-3. We got swept by the Giants here.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
At home, and we're like,
oh, it's gonna be a long year.
Oh, here go the Reds again. They're gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
And then we end up, just think about all the games that. Gosh, if we just would have won one more game during the season at some point, we wouldn't.
What's crazy is you play all those games, and when we had to play 163, you play 162 games. 3 teams end up right where they want to be. 2 teams are tied at the end, and we got to play one more game, 163. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
you guys had 10 guys hit at least 10 homers that year, which does not happen. Case, you hit 25. Vaughn hit 45.
45.
Pokey Reese hit 10. That's like 40 for him, right?
Pokey, everyone was ready.
You guys were
Cameron
right.
had 20-something, right?
Yeah,
Cameron had 21. And then Jeffrey Hammonds had 17.
Yeah, he had like 300 at bats.
Right.
I think
Booney. Where is it? Booney had 14 and 72 ribbies.
Yeah,
a bunch of guys with at least 70 RBIs.
What about Taubensee?
This is fun. Taubensee, 21 and 87.
Dude, Tommy rigged that.
Yeah. Listen, he was the biggest, strongest Judy hitter I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's a monster. Like, he's so ridiculously strong. Well, me and Gabe White told him in spring training, dude, just swing hard. Just swing hard and see what happens.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you take credit for Tommy's
He gives us credit. He does.
Yeah.
Like, you guys told me to swing hard, and I did.
A couple big walk-offs.
Oh, dude, bombzillas.
Dude, Tommy could
unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way,
So,
Danny, you were 8-7 that year with 27 saves. That's unbelievable. How'd you get 8 wins? What's that?
yeah. So,
Real quick, talk about that bullpen.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Because you guys, listen, we won 96 games, and Harnisch, Nagel were legit.
Yeah.
Ronnie Balloon had a great year.
Yeah.
Steve Paris. But the bullpen was the reason that we were where we were. Jim Bone did a great job of putting that bullpen together.
Yeah.
Talk about that pen and some of those guys out there.
Stan Belinda, the veteran guy, had a bunch of great years. He was the worst in the bullpen, but he was still really
great.
good.
Yeah.
So me and Scott Williamson.
Well, Scott Williamson
that was his rookie year.
He was a rookie year, and he was an all-star.
Yeah, an all-star. So he had 19 saves. I had 27. So I had over 100 innings. Sully had over 100 innings. Scott
Sullivan might have been the MVP of that team.
100%.
I mean, and Sully pitched every night.
Yeah,
like 3 innings.
I wouldn't have had the same numbers if it wasn't for Sully, because Sully got it to me at the end of the game. But Sully would always face Bagwell, Biggio, like all the tough guys. And I would have occasionally, of course, but like it seemed like he was always putting the fires out, and then I would get a clean inning. Right. So like to me, Sully was the MVP for sure of that staff. But Dennis Reyes,
yeah, you played 70. You were in 75 games. Sullivan was in 79 that year. 75 games for you, 79 for Sullivan.
Yeah, well, Jack McKeon he'd go, Sullivan, Williamson, Graves every night. I'm like, Sullivan, Williams, Graves going again. It's unbelievable.
And then the next night it'd be Sullivan, Graves.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But also there was another guy named the Big Sweat who came over. Big Sweat came over. Dennis Reyes, left-handed pitcher, looked like Fernando Valenzuela.
Yeah.
Right, great story. Big Sweat grew up in Mexico, right? And he was a left-handed pitcher, but he kind of was like, you're like, why has he got a hunchback, right? So what happened? The other story, his uncle was like twirling him around at like 5 years old and threw him down the hill or something. He broke his collarbone, and they didn't have any money to go to the hospital or something. So they're like, hey, why don't you start throwing lefty? So he was like stuck like this, but he was like throwing 95 miles an hour lefty. Ended up having an unbelievable career in the big leagues.
Slider was ridiculous.
Nasty.
He could tell you he's throwing it, and it would bounce 2 feet in front of the plate, and you still swing at it.
Still swing at it. Yeah, one of the nastiest guys. One of the greatest guys, too. Big Sweat was one of the greatest guys. All those guys. Juan Castro. So many good guys, man.
Oh, Castro,
But with Big Sweat, too, it was so funny. We call him the Big Sweat because after the games, we'd go in and shower, and then we'd get on the team bus, and Big Sweat was, like, sweating profusely. Like, looked like he was in the game. I'm like, Sweat. I'm like, why are you sweating so bad? He's like, I don't know. I just sweat all the time. That's why I call him the Big Sweat.
Yeah, the Big Sweat. He would sweat just putting a dip in his mouth. He was always sweating. I couldn't imagine him with us this morning in that restaurant when it was so hot. But yeah, going back to what you asked before, Chinch, about like the personalities, especially on this team, like the different haircuts, the tattoos, like we were just being us. We weren't like those adult big league guys that we watched growing up, which we loved watching growing up. But like those were men.
Yeah.
Those were men. They did it
yeah.
way. Well, we were kids just being ourselves and going out and performing, and I still get people saying on social media that they used to have blonde hair. They did their blonde hair because I did.
You had the blonde hair.
My entire team, I went to Columbia University in Manhattan. Every weekend we would dye our hair a different color because of you guys, because we would see you do it. I swear. We did it. That's probably why I'm half bald now, because we were using like those $4 like Walgreens hair color thing.
Columbia, and you're smart. Your brain's taking everything else.
Columbia, whoa, yeah, your neurons are hitting, and your hair's falling out because the neurons are so smart. But dyeing the hair and stuff was funny until Dimitri dyed his goatee. When wait a minute, Train, you took it way too far. Your hair's dyed, and now your goatee's dyed. We need to fix that.
And it was like it was yellow.
It wasn't like blonde. It was like yellow.
Yeah.
And I think he realized that after like the third day, he's like, I gotta get rid of this. That's so great. So that '99 team was one of the greatest ever. You go to your first All-Star game in 2000. Look, give me a story. Give me a story.
Oh, okay. I'll give you a couple. So, I wasn't supposed to be on the team. At the All-Star break, I was 9-1 with the 199.
Whoa.
Yeah, and like 15 saves. Well, I wasn't. That was when only the managers and their coaches picked reserves, like and the pitchers and reserves. So I wasn't picked. But then Greg Maddux backed out, so Bobby Cox picked me to be on the team, and he told me, he's like, I really wanted you at first, but we didn't have room, and I'm like, I don't care, I'm here. Like, I don't care how I got here, I'm here. So, anyways, Leo Mazzoni was a pitching coach, and he told all the pitchers what inning we were planning on throwing. Like, so he told me I was going to throw the 8th inning, so just be ready by the 8th. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to wait like this long to pitch in this game. What am I going to do? Like, this is going to be the worst ever. Oh my God. So Randy Johnson was starting the game. Kevin Brown was going second. He was going to pitch 2nd inning. So I get on a golf cart with Tom Glavine, and I'm like, oh, I'm riding with Tom Glavine to the bullpen. So we're going down to the bullpen. As soon as I get there, inning's over. Randy Johnson has a quick 1st inning. Kevin Brown is like not even close to being warmed up. As soon as I get off the golf cart, Bobby Dews was the bullpen coach. He's like, hey, they want to know if you can get ready. Like, for what? He's like, for the next inning. I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I didn't even throw a pitch. I'm like, I'm ready.
Are you serious?
Yeah, tell him I'm ready. So I went and fired like 3 or 4 pitches to the catcher, and he was over. I went in.
What?
Yes. Dude, my adrenaline. I felt like I could throw 110 miles an hour.
I was to help the pressure, though, right? That probably helped because you're not thinking about it and you're just in and you're out, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I was having all this anxiety about what am I going to do for 7 innings? Like, I can watch the game, but I've got to figure out, like, oh my gosh, who am I going to pitch to? Like, in the 8th inning, all these things go through my mind. But as soon as I got on the golf cart, it's like, hey, they want to know if you get ready. I'm like, I'm ready. Tell me to come in.
It's so cool.
So no stretches, no like hamstring stretch?
No, nothing. Dude, I mean, I put my glove on, put my jacket down. I'm like, God. Fire a couple, and then inning was over. So I run into the game. So I end up facing Carl Everett, flew out to left. Vladimir Guerrero was in left. Carl Everett, line out to center. Pudge Rodriguez, single to the right field line. And then Travis Fryman, punch out on a curveball. I'm like, oh, this is over. This is crazy. Over. I cannot believe it. Now what am I going to do? So I'm like walking to the dugout, like all cool. And I saw a replay of this not like a couple of years ago. I'm walking to the dugout like I'm real cool. And, you know, Pudge Rodriguez is like one of the nicest guys ever. And he just got a single off me. And I've never met him before. And he comes up to me as I'm walking off. He's like, telling me, good job. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. I just walked. I kept walking. So afterwards, I'm like, he must think I'm a dick, dude. I didn't say anything. I was so scared. Like, it was the craziest thing. But that was my experience there for the game. I'm telling you.
So you were one and done. Yeah. You didn't go out for it.
No, they're like, that's it. Good job. I'm like, thank you. I'm going to sit right here and watch
this. That's awesome.
I forgot to throw this in there. Before the day of the home run derby, so we go out and going to play some long toss with some of the pitchers. So Trevor Hoffman says, hey, you want to play catch? I'm like, okay, I'll play catch with you. So I'm like, and he's so nice too. Like, I'm like, I'll play catch with you. So we're playing catch. I'm like, how far do you want me to go? He's like, whatever you want. So
did he throw any changeups on catch?
No.
Okay.
No, I would have broke my shins. I would have missed them. So I'm backing up and I'm like, oh man, I feel good. Like I'm gonna show Trevor Hoffman how good my arm is, and I'm firing away. I launch one over his head. And there's fans behind him, you know, down the right field line at the old Turner Field. There's fans right there watching us all play catch. Boom! Smoked the dude right in the head.
Oh, no.
I'm serious. And Hoffman's like, dude, you're a major league pitcher, and you just threw it into the stands and you smoked somebody. I'm like, oh, my God. Maybe you shouldn't have been standing there.
So they're like, listen, I overthrew the third baseman on an appeal to third.
I'd like to throw over people's heads.
That's crazy.
So Trevor Hoffman must be like, this dude's an all-star?
That's great.
That's so great. So let's fast forward. Obviously, we played together 01, 02, 03, you know, all those years. 04, we go to the All-Star game together. It was you, me, Griffey, and Mark. The four guys represent Cincinnati in Houston. I mean, I got some stories, but I want to hear what are some of Danny Graves' stories from 2004 All-Star games.
So that was pretty cool. The home run derby. 2 of my older kids they were old enough to come on the field with us. So that was back when the home run derbies took like 7 hours. Like, it was so long.
My God,
and Sosa was in that derby. Well, I got my boys. I'm like, let's go. We got to go. It's getting too late. So we're walking up the steps, and the cameras are back there filming Sosa, like stretching out and getting ready and doing his thing, you know. So we're walking by, and he puts out his fist for my kids. So my kids do that on TV. Like,
Wow.
it was so cool. Yeah,
That's awesome.
They got to like dash Sammy Sosa, but he just blew me off.
That's
How'd you do
awesome.
against Sosa in your career?
I struck out him more than anybody else.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but
Wow.
No wonder he didn't give you that.
Yeah.
a few times. He hit a few homers off me, but I remember he told me one time at Synergy, he's like, man, I much respect for you, man, because you challenged me with fastballs. And I'm like,
Wow.
and I'm thinking, is he trying to set me up? Yeah. Is he telling me to throw more fastballs so he can? So, I mean, I didn't know how to take it, but I'm like, thanks.
Funny.
But so that game, I didn't play. Jack McKeon was our manager because they just won with the Marlins, and he's like, hey, do you feel like pitching? I'm like, I'm so glad you asked because I've pitched in one, and my arm's killing me, so I don't really care if I pitch. I had 33 saves at the break. Like, I was pitching every day.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I don't care if I don't pitch at all. So he's like, okay, we'll just play it by ear. So they called down the 8th inning. They said, ask Graves and Eric Gagne, if they want to split the inning. And this is the year that part of the year he had 84 straight saves. And I said, dude, they're going to want to see you pitch more than they want to see me. So I'd rather not have any unless you want me to. He's like, no, I'll take it. So Gagne took the inning.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So me and Armando Benitez, Levon Hernandez, and Jason Schmidt just sat there and watched.
Just chill.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, it's cool because it's a mark in your book, 2004 All Star. But you did. I was coming off the DL then too, and I had made the All Star team. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to play, but I'm going to enjoy the festivities.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. What do you remember about that game though? Like, what do you remember about the festivities? All of it.
So that game, Roger Clemens was starting for us.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And remember who was catching? Mike Piazza. So this was after all
Oh my God.
their shenanigans.
That's right.
So I can vividly remember before the game, them two walking out to the bullpen. And
Did they talk?
they looked like they were talking. They looked like
Oh
they were
my
talking.
God.
And I just wanted to be like a fly on somebody's
Yeah.
shoulder just to hear what the conversation was. And like we were all talking like, I think Piazza's going to tell the hitters what's coming. Well, they had a bunch of runs in the first inning. I felt like
Yeah.
immediately just hammered Clemens, and that was the first thing we thought of. Oh my gosh, Piazza told them what was coming. I'm sure he didn't, but it's definitely a thought that we
Oh my
had.
God, it's
So-
Unbelievable.
so funny. I remember the one thing I remember about that couple days was Moises Alou and I were talking. We were sitting there. I remember vividly. Bonds and Bonilla are talking on the other side because I'm excited. The Killer Bees. I'm like, I grew up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so cool. Bonds and Bonilla are talking on the other side. Me and Alou were talking. Now, let me know if you were here when this all happened. I'm sure you were. But all of a sudden, the clubhouse gets like eerily quiet. Eerily quiet. You know where I'm going with this, right? So Alou looks at me, I look at him, and we turn back around, and Muhammad Ali walks in. I got the chills talking about it.
Yeah.
And he kind of like, he's still struggling with Parkinson's,
Yeah.
but then he starts boxing.
Yes.
He comes out, and I think, he starts, going
Yeah.
for guys. It was, for me, one of the greatest moments of my life, let alone my career, was when Ali came in the 2004 All-Star Game Clubhouse and started, hanging with us.
It's amazing, and he couldn't really say anything, but just to see him do this and like, oh my gosh, this is like greatness. This is royalty in front of us. And, they always show like clips of him and Jeter on the field, like when they show like a bunch of All-Star game stuff from 2004. It's like both teams are out on the pitcher's mound with Muhammad Ali there, and it's always like they just want to show him and Jeter. I'm like, I was there. I was there when that happened. He was in our clubhouse. He signed a hat for me too. So
Right.
yeah. So that was amazing.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have probably the coolest picture, one of the coolest top two pictures of my life there. my son Andrew, if you go back to the home run derby, was with me. He was 2 at the time, and I remember Bonds was hitting. I'm like, hey, look at Barry Bonds. I look over, Andrew's doing dirt angels on the morning track. I look over at my wife at the time, Annie. I'm like, hey, it's time to go. He's doing dirt angels. Doesn't even know Barry Bonds. You gotta be kidding, right? So we go back to the clubhouse, and earlier in the day when Ali had come in, he was getting ready to leave, and I was getting ready to bring. And I walked over to him. I said, "Excuse me, Mom, do you think you could take a picture with my son?" I have one of the coolest pictures ever. He was the nicest guy. He's holding Andrew. Andrew turns to me like he's going to cry, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't care if you poop your pants, I don't care what you do, I'm not touching you until I get this picture. Yeah. And I got the old school, like, the disposables. Right before the game, I was like, I got to get a couple of disposables to make sure. So I'm winding the disposable, boom, I'm just routing off pictures, and it's one of the coolest pictures I have at home. It's framed of Ali holding Andrew, and Andrew looking back at me like, who is this guy? And I'm like, who's this guy's son? He's one of the greatest human beings of all time, greatest sponsor of all time.
You'll know one day.
You'll know one day.
Yeah. You showed me that picture.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
So great.
I did get a picture with Harmon Killebrew there, and he was just standing there. I'm like, Mr. Killebrew, can I get a picture? And he's like, sure, Danny, come on. And I'm like, what? What'd you call me?
Yeah, that's cool.
He might have saw my jersey, had my name on it, and read the roster, whatever. But he said Danny. I'm like,
whoa, my
this
God.
is so cool.
That's so cool.
It was amazing.
That is so cool. It's funny you said Harmon Killebrew because I'm going a little off the mark here. But last night we had an unbelievable night. We saw the guys, and then next thing you know, we got invited to Johnny Bench's room at night, and we're sitting there, and Johnny's holding court. So you got Johnny Bench. Tom Hume,
Doug Flynn.
Yep, Doug Flynn. It was a great conversation. Johnny starts going into these unbelievable stories.
And just me, him, and Adam
Dunn. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're all right around Johnny, and Johnny's telling us stories about Big Red Machine and Bernie Carbo's home where he's like Bernie Carbo got around that ball, and somehow hit it, in what is that 70, 75 or 76? Yeah. And so what was so cool was talk about Harmon Killebrew, seems like that Jim Thome, bigger than life kind of guy.
Yeah.
Well, Kluszewski, we talked about Kluszewski.
Yeah.
Remember we were asking him questions about, hey, tell us about Ted Kluszewski. And just some of the stories that Johnny had about how big Klu was. Yeah. That was the reason they cut off the sleeves with the Reds, because Kluszewski couldn't fit into the jersey.
That's amazing.
So they used to cut the sleeves off so Klu could get in there.
Yeah.
And they said he would just hit monster bombs.
Yeah.
And was just like one of the nicest dudes ever.
The stories that we heard last night, and I said this to him earlier, why didn't we record that?
Yeah.
Why wasn't there a camera in here when this was going on? Because,
I should have recorded. I was going to hit voice memo, but I didn't want to feel like a total toolbox.
I'm telling you, he was holding court, and it was like, you will not be able to duplicate that night.
Never.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. Dunner's kid was there.
Yeah, Dunner's kid, Casey,
11-year-old.
named after me. Boom, thank you, Dunner. Casey, I love your life, brother.
Yeah.
But Johnny was so nice.
Talking hitting with him.
Talking and hitting
Wow.
with Casey. We're like,
what?
me and Graves like, how'd you do it? She goes, it's like a fly swatter. You get the fly swatter out, and bam, you hit the fly here, and bam, you hit the fly there. Right?
He whacked Casey with
then he whacked me. He whacked me. He's like, and I'm like, God, that hurt you. He hit me he slapped me with the bat like there was a fly, like there was a fly on my leg. I'm like, there's no fly on my leg, John. What the hell? But he was talking to Casey about that backhand, that back right hand, and bam, putting it on the ball, putting it on the ball, barrel on the ball, like a fly swat.
Yeah,
it was just unbelievable to hear him talk.
Yeah,
how he looked at hitting.
It almost like saying, okay, you don't have to look at it, but you should know where the barrel of your bat's going to be.
Wow.
The name on your bat. Remember, he's saying the name on your bat, and then that's when he whacked Casey on the leg. He's like, I don't even need to look, and I can hit him right there. And it's just knowing where your barrel is. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How can you even know this?
That's crazy.
Why didn't people tell us
still be
this?
playing. Someone told me that.
That's so great.
He's so smart right now. If we knew that.
What was he telling to? Like Tom Hume's one of our favorite guys in the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Hummer on this podcast at some point because he's one of the greatest guys ever. But Hummer's so great. But what was Hummer talking about? Him and Johnny are tight. But he were talking about what was his first slider? He said he hung it or something. He was like, yeah, you remember that time, Johnny? He's like, you put the fingers down. Johnny was so funny. He's like, yeah, I put the fingers down. And you just threw one of the biggest poop soup sliders down the middle we've ever seen. And the guy hit it like 9,000 feet.
But then Johnny's like, oh, maybe I put the wrong signal down. Maybe I called the wrong pitch. So Johnny was acting like he messed it up. But
so
Hummer, he had nasty sinker and cutter and just naturally just ball moving all over the place. So he was telling us that Tom Hume threw a certain pitch, and then bench came out and said, "What was that? How did you hold that?" And he's like, "I don't know, just kind of like this." And Johnny didn't even let him finish. He grabbed him and said, "Keep doing it like that. And don't throw it in different."
That's awesome.
And then back to the plate. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
He's like, what was that pitch? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't, just keep doing it like you're doing it. Fingers down. Yeah. Johnny told another story too. I can't remember the pitcher's name.
I don't either.
But he said Johnny had pitched like Johnny had caught like 54 straight games. Went back in the day. I think Spark Harnisch was like, "Hey, keep getting out there." He's like,
and this was days in a row. There wasn't like days off in between these games.
Yeah.
He said
54 days in a row,
Mm.
right? So like that's unheard of today for a catcher to do that, especially days in a row
Yeah.
like they did back then. But he says it's 10-0. They're losing. It's the 7th inning, so he's like, obviously the manager's going to take me out of the game, knowing that I've just played 54 straight games and I might need 3 innings off. Right? So he's like he doesn't get it off, and he said the pitcher comes out. And was there a guy on second? Remember he was saying he was giving
runner on second.
So what was he saying? He's like
he was doing the sequence.
So what was
Sequences, and then
explain that to us.
So sequences, like for example, I would use the first sign after 3, and if I didn't want it, we would go back to the first sign. So sign after 3, shake first. So if I wanted a fastball, it'd be like 2, 1, 2, 3, 1.
Okay.
So whatever's after
First
3.
sign after 3. And then if you shook, what would it be?
Then the first sign then.
Okay.
So then it would go back to 1 and go through some sequence.
Okay.
So, and obviously we know why the runners on second don't want them to know what's coming. Well, he kept calling for curveball, and the guy was like, no, no. And then finally Johnny was just like, give him the fastball. And he put down the 1, and he said he was so tired that this guy, when he threw it, he's setting up here to catch it, and then it was over here. He said he was so tired, he just reached up and caught it with his bare hand.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like his hands are like
His hands are so
Yeah.
he hold like 8 balls.
8.
And
Yeah.
like, I think last night he went like this. He went like this. Like I was like, ah! And then his shoulders are they're so meaty. So I can picture him just going, and he said he threw right back to him. He said the pitcher was so dejected, like,
Yeah.
you caught my fastball with your bare hand.
I would have been like, I need to retire. His
Crazy.
hands, like, he was showing pictures of him going fishing last night. Like, we have the same fishing buddy who gets us fishing rods. So he's going through his iPad. And the iPad's like a regular size iPad, but this is what it looked like.
That is
Unbelievable how big his hands are.
Yeah, it was so big. I guess he's a big fisherman, so he's been fishing a lot lately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, well, first off, I had Johnny on the podcast. Chich and I were doing research. We're like he's on the Johnny Carson show, right?
Yeah.
He was on
Baseball bunch?
Letterman, baseball
He
bunch.
was a celebrity, bro. I don't even know if you know. I didn't know. Like we go back like
Yeah,
Johnny-
the Bob Hope's
Bob
USO
Hope,
tours.
yes. Dude, no, he was a big deal, and I'm like, I didn't know you were that big a deal. It's unbelievable. So when Johnny last night was showing those fishing pictures, I'm like, he must have some of the biggest friends going because he's like, this guy's boat's unbelievable. We were on this special lake over here. We're on. So I'm like, these are all the connections. Johnny Bench has more connections than freaking anybody else.
Yeah, more connections than Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
His boat, this guy's boat, he's a friend of mine. Brian Conley's his name. He's down in Jupiter. His boat is the Rod Father.
The Godfather.
Yes. And it's, the same letters as the Godfather. But his, Brian's relative works at the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
He's a volunteer at the Hall of Fame. So that's how I got in connection with him. And I fished at her place over in Kentucky all last
At the Reds
year.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the lady from the Reds Hall of Fame. She's like, oh, I got a buddy or a relative, a cousin that makes fishing poles. And, well, he's Johnny Bench's guy. He's Warren Sapp's guy.
Oh,
he's
wow.
JD Martinez's guy. He's like custom makes rods. Well, he sent 2 rods to me and put the baby-faced assassin on them.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
Yes.
What a nickname.
Where
did that come from, the baby-faced assassin? It's such a great nickname.
Prime time. Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sick. That is sick.
He did it like just joking around, walking by. You know how cool Prime is. He's like, oh,
Him and Jeffrey Hammond's 2 coolest dudes ever.
ever. He's like, oh, his fingers are so long. Oh, baby-faced assassin. Yeah. So Pete Harnisch got a hold of it, and he just like he just ran
That's
with it.
awesome.
You know? So now it's like it was a big deal. Like everybody started calling me that, but the story is primetime just walking by.
No way.
Yeah.
What a
That's
great
crazy.
story.
Did you guys, by the way, did you guys talk shit to each other, or you're talking Miami and Florida State? Like, or it was cool with
You
you?
don't know. Hey, listen.
I was going to say the same thing.
You don't talk trash to primetime.
Really?
There is no talking trash to primetime. And he could have. I actually do. I'm okay with Florida State. I don't hate Florida State. I hate the Florida Gators.
Uh-huh.
If he was a Florida Gator, I still wouldn't talk trash. That's one guy who's just like, yeah,
Dude,
That's
hey,
awesome.
Prime was the best, man, because he loved fishing. Remember, after every day he'd go
There's
fishing.
little John boat in the back of his truck.
Yeah, you're like, fish
Wow.
Prime's got his boat again to practice. You know what I mean? Hard work, such a hardworking guy, such a strong man of faith, which was cool because, you think primetime, probably the quietest guy in the clubhouse.
Totally.
Like you're like, oh, are you Deion Sanders?
Wow.
I'm waiting for the prime time.
Yeah.
It's like, no, quietest guy in the clubhouse. But when the lights came on,
Yeah.
when the interview came on, bam, prime time came out.
Yeah.
But Deion came out, before that. But it was just such a wonderful guy and such a wonderful teammate. Like, when you look back and you're like, I remember just looking over, going, I got Ken Griffey Jr. to my left, maybe the greatest baseball player of all time. I got Deion Sanders straight across to the clubhouse. One of the greatest football players of all time, greatest feedback of all time, no doubt about it. Like, did you feel the same way a little bit?
Dude, like, I was starstruck. And still to this day, like, people that do work with Deion that I'm friends with, I'm like, I almost don't know what to say because I'm still starstruck with Deion. And he's like, oh, babyface assassin. Like, he's just like, oh, we're best friends. And he's liked stuff on my Instagram. I'm like,
That's crazy.
I'm like, look, Deion just liked this. He liked this picture.
That's awesome, man.
I don't say anything about so liking my stuff, but when primetime likes it, I'm like, that's primetime.
Oh, it's so true, man.
Yeah.
Just such an unbelievable guy.
So amazing.
Oh my God. So after 2005, then you go to the Mets, and it kind of the end of your career. Take us through that a little bit. So 2005. I want to clean something up first, like because dude, you're one of my best buddies in the world. You're one of the best guys I ever played with. I love you so much, bro, and I'm so grateful for those times that we had together. We played pretty much our whole career together.
Yeah.
Came up with the Indians. We were both here from 98 to 2005.
Yeah.
I got traded after the 2005 season, and I love you, dude. You're one of the biggest hearts going. And when you left here in Cincinnati, things happen, and I remember that fan yelling at you coming off the field. And, I think he might have said something racist towards you, and you flicked him off, and it turned into this big thing, like you were flicking off the Cincinnati Reds fans,
right.
And it couldn't be anything further from the truth. It frustrated me so bad. I'm like, if everyone knew Danny Graves, you wouldn't think anything of it. And sometimes it's a high stress situation. Could you just talk about that a little bit? Because, at least to me, because I want to clean that up, because it bothers me when anyone says, "Oh, Danny Graves flicked out the fans." I'm like, no, come on, man. I was there.
Right.
Some guy comes in our dugout, berates you flick him off, and all of a sudden the story is Danny Graves flicks off the fans.
Yeah, immediately it turned into I walked off the field flicking off everybody in the stadium.
Yeah, that's not true.
And it's further from the from the truth. I was struggling off the field with some issues that we can get into in a little bit, but so on the field, like my performance wasn't that great, and I wasn't feeling right. I wasn't pitching well, and just kind of hitting around, and so few times previous to this last outing, like I was getting booed off the field, and I publicly said to one of the reporters, Hal McCoy or Chris Haft, I said, it's just unfortunate that our own fans are booing us because we're not like trying to suck,
right?
We're trying to get people out, and we're trying to get hits,
right?
So that turned into, oh, he's such a crybaby. Like, oh, I can't believe he's crying. We tell him he sucks. Whatever. I understand that fans can say and do whatever they want.
Right.
But usually your hometown team, you're not booing your own players. So anyways, probably shouldn't have said that, but I was never one to hold back on my opinion.
Right.
And I didn't think it was that bad of a deal or that big of a deal. But so this game, I throw the third of an inning, give up like 4 or 5 runs. So I come walking off, and I get all the way into the dugout. I'm down the steps in the dugout, not really in the tunnel, but I'm like turning away from the tunnel, going to sit down, and some dude leans over in the little club section, and like literally leans over the glass and says, "Take your ass back to effing Vietnam."
Oh my
So
God.
I just look at him. I said, "Well, go F yourself." And I
You double barrel.
Yeah. So
If you had more fingers, you could have triple barreled. That's
Yeah,
horse
yeah.
shit.
Oh, if I had an
Unbelievable.
extra hand, I would have. So, I mean, and it was like harmless. He said that to me. He racially, attacked me. So I told him to go F himself.
I know.
And that I thought that was the end of it. And so I go home that day. I get a call from Rob Butcher, our media relations guy, best one in the business.
Best
by
in
the
the
way.
business. Butch, best in the business.
He's like, "Oh man, I got to know before I say anything to anybody. People are asking me if you flicked off the fans, and I got to try to put this fire out." I'm like, "Butch, I didn't flick off the
Fans.
fans.
I flicked off a
I flicked
fan."
off one person who leaned in the dugout." And he's like, "Oh man, okay, let me see what I can do." So John Allen, who was this COO at the time, calls me right after that. He's like, "Tell me what happened, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Okay, let's tackle this tomorrow. As soon as you get here, let's if you're okay with it, let's make a public statement and tell your side of the story, and we'll move on." Well, the next morning, before I even have a chance to go to the field, Dan O'Brien, the GM at the time, says, "I need you to come into," or Miley calls me. Dave Miley says, "I need you to come to the office, get here a little bit earlier." And he's like, and I said, "What? Am I in trouble?" He's like, just get here when you can." So Dan O'Brien's not even in town. He gets on the phone and says, "We're going to designate you for assignment."
So tired. Dan
I'm like,
O'Brien.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you're going to designate me for assignment because some fan said that the fans are saying that I flicked off
Yeah.
the
Typical
crowd?"
Dan O'Brien, too, to call
Yeah.
you, call you on the phone.
On the phone.
Yeah. Right.
So he's like, no, it's just your performance." And I'm like, "Come on, let's get real. Like, the fans are saying I flicked off the crowd and you're designating me for assignment." He's like, "That's not it." And I said, "But plus, you couldn't even come here to tell me this?
Yeah.
I've been here for all these years and you couldn't come and tell me this?" "Oh, I'm out of town." And I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Tired.
so anyways, that was that. And for years, and still now, a lot of people think that I flicked off the whole stadium. And it was
Right.
one person. Like, people occasionally will try to get on social media and say, "Oh, you're the guy that flicked us all off." I'm like,
Wow.
unless you're the one person that cussed at me, you didn't see me flick anybody off. Because it was one guy.
Yeah.
One
yeah.
guy that saw me do
Yeah.
that.
That always bothered me.
Yeah.
Because that always bothered me that was the story, and I'm like, that's not the story, but I guess anyone can believe what they want to believe.
Right.
That's why 2021 on the Mayor's Office podcast,
Yep.
we're going to set the record straight
Yeah.
that that wasn't the story.
Yeah.
And the fans always loved you all the time, and I hope people hear this interview and know that you always had that love for the Cincinnati Reds fans.
Yeah.
It was nothing towards them. It was towards one dude.
One idiot.
Yeah, one idiot. That's
Yeah.
ain't that the truth.
Yeah.
Gravy, we do a thing on this podcast called 9 and 90.
9 and 90?
Yeah, and Chich will explain
Yes.
it because every time I try to explain it, I get on myself like,
Well, hey,
blah, 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 blah.
listen, he's Columbia University.
Dude, you'll hear it because he's so smart.
Yeah.
Freaking barrels are fired 24/7. So he'll explain it.
All right. It's on impression now. It's this.
Don't mess this up, Chad.
I know. This or that questions. We start with Sean. You just pick it up right after he gives his answer. And we're going 9 innings in 90 seconds. So 9 topics, and we'll get through it quickly. Okay? We ready to go?
So
Did I explain it
gotta
okay?
make my answer short.
I know. Well, you do whatever you want. It's really turned into 9 and 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. React to him. I don't think I've put a clock on this in 7 weeks. So, all right, here we go. If you had to give up one, pizza, burger, tacos.
If I had to give up one,
Yeah.
I would say I'm going to give up tacos.
Tacos for me. I will never give up pizza.
Pizza
Yeah,
and burgers.
me neither.
Yeah, it has to be. You have to dominate.
You're gonna have to.
Forever.
You're gonna have to kill me before I do that.
Yeah, me too. All right. I have good news and I have bad news. What would you want to hear first? Good or bad news?
Give me the bad news first.
Bad news too. Yeah, because I want to finish with something good. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what would be worse? Always having to wear wet socks or always having to wear an itchy sweater? I've seen you wear wet socks before. I'm sure you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'd say I can grind through the wet socks, but the itchy sweater gets a little annoying.
No? So what's your answer?
Itchy sweater.
Yeah, itchy sweater for me too. He's already got a sweater underneath here.
Yeah, that's true.
If he had another sweater, it would really be itchy.
There you go.
Like I look like Chewbacca underneath, and then when I put the other sweater on, I was like, damn, am I itchy?
Yeah, I don't want itchy. I'll go with wet socks. We'll have stinky feet.
All right, beautiful. Okay, you going to sleep. Is the television on or is the television off?
Oh, television's off. I can't do that.
It depends. Can I say that?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
If I'm at home with my wife, it's off. If I'm on the road, it's on because I need some kind of noise.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Are you kind of scared in your house by yourself? Like,
No.
No, you're.
Are you?
I get scared sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, just like, I don't know. When I'm in the house by myself, I hear things like, who's there? That's the only time I turn the TV on is when I'm in the house by myself. I turn that TV on so I can hear like, somebody talking to me.
You need to get yourself a sound machine.
All right. Which would be worst? Sending a text to the wrong person or liking an old social media post by someone you don't want to like?
You go ahead, baby. You
Liking an old social media post from somebody that I don't want. Right? Is that what the question was?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Dude, for me, it's like sending the wrong text. Like, that's one of the worst things ever. I had a buddy the other day. This is a great story. I had this drywall guy at the house, and my buddy, who's a painter, is like, who's the plumber, is like trying to talk about the drywall guy. And he sends me this text that says like, "Hey, bro, this guy's an idiot. You know, blah blah blah. You got. You know, I don't know what's going on here." So then he calls me back. Then the next text, I don't get that text, but the text I get is, "Me and the drywall guy just got into a huge fight. Almost went to blows." I go, "What happened?" He goes, I sent this text made for you. I sent it to him."
Oh my God. That's the worst. That's the worst.
That's what he said, right?
Whoa, so I think when you send the text to the wrong guy, you're like, "Oh, this could be dicey."
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I just don't want somebody to like know that I liked something there when I really didn't, but it was an accidental push. You know, because you can unlike it, but they still know.
They know you
liked it.
Yeah, you're right.
Terrible world we're living in these days.
I know.
All right, would you rather own a monkey or a robot?
A robot, because what I think of the monkey could turn on you.
100.
Like you're like, "Hey, monkey, you're having a great time. Here's a banana." Next thing you know, it's like, bam, he ate my face off.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why he's attacking you, because you're like, "Here, monkey." Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want a monkey either. I think they're awesome, like to watch on TV
Over there.
in the zoo, but I don't want one. Yeah,
I'm with you.
I want my robot to be like Rocky IV, Paulie's robot too. Like, "Hey, bring me a beer."
Yeah.
Hey, rub my back, rub my shoulder.
just turn off.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
exactly.
There you go. All right, what would be worse, being on a canoe on a lake filled with alligators or locked in a room full of snakes?
Go ahead, baby.
Canoe full of alligators.
Even being a Florida guy?
Oh, well, you're
Yeah.
Florida guy.
But listen,
You have any gator stories?
well, I love snakes. Like snakes don't scare me. Like honestly,
That's why he's got all the tats. He loves snakes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go and like play with the snake, but like if one comes up on me, I'm gonna be like cautious. But we get snakes in Texas all the time. Like in our yard, we have little like garden snakes, and they say don't kill them because they keep the rats out. And it's true. Like they'll eat everything. I killed one a few years ago when we first moved in our new house.
Yeah.
My son was outside with the nanny, and they heard a and they're like, "What's going on?" So I run out there to see what this noise is, and it's a snake that's eating a frog.
Oh,
like,
my God.
Follow the frog hole. I'll show you the picture after. And so I killed the snake and tried to save the frog. Well, the frog already suffocated. And I'm like, I just messed up the whole.
Praise God for the snakes.
I was trying to get mount to the frog, and I'm like, a circle of life. I just crushed a circle of life.
That's amazing.
I'm serious. I'll show you the picture after. But so snakes don't bother me. Like it's the not that alligators are afraid. Like I'm afraid of them because we used to golf in Florida and alligators all over the place. But and they don't bother you. I would be more afraid that the alligator would pull me under and wrestle with me and I would drown. Like I'm more afraid of drowning than anything.
Oh,
like,
God.
Bite my legs off, bite my arms off. But I don't want to drown. Yeah, I know it's crazy.
Dude, I had two things here. I hate snakes and I don't want to be in a room with them. And I think I could do the Gators. Listen to this story. We're playing the Marlins one time, and Chris Reitz, remember Reitz?
Yeah.
The Reitz daddy?
The Canuck.
The Canuck, yeah, Calgary. So Reitz comes back with some of my college buddies. I used to live in Jupiter, so after the game we come back. We're having a couple of bubblies. We're lighting off Roman candles. I'm like, this is gonna go bad fast. We're shooting Roman candles at each other, and I got this lake in the backyard. Obviously, we're in Jupiter, Florida, right? So we decide, late at night, we're like, hey, let's see who can swim across the lake the fastest.
Oh my God.
We jump in the lake at, late at night.
Lakes in Florida, dude.
Dude, this is such a bad idea. But anyway, we swim across the lake and hey, it's so funny. So we go and play the next day, no big deal. A week later, my buddy down there says, hey man, I just want to let you know they just pulled a 12-foot gator out of that lake behind your house.
Oh my God. Oh.
I'm like, are you serious? So
Good thing he wasn't hungry.
So I know, dude.
Yeah.
Got arms, fingers. Dude, 12-foot gator out of the lake that we swam across in pitch black too. Couldn't even see.
Maybe
Dumb idea. It's a dumb idea.
Maybe both you guys are big dudes, so maybe it didn't like.
We would have. Hey, when
Large
Reitz,
white
probably
man.
when Reitz was coming through, because Reitz was a monster, and
Yeah.
the Canadian in him was just telling the alligator, "Hey, wait, bro, you're gonna get checked."
Yeah. So if the short little Asian guy goes across, it's gonna be good.
All right, I got two more. Ready? Better 80s hairband. These are randoms. White Snake or Skid Row?
Go ahead.
Skid Row, baby, all the way. Skid Row.
Hey,
Sebastian Bach, the lead singer, follows me on Twitter.
He does?
He does. Yeah.
Why?
Because I'll show you that video too. I sang I Remember You. That's my ringtone, by the way.
I remember you.
So I sang that. It was on the radio. My wife recorded me, and I didn't really know it that she was recording me until
I think I might have seen this.
I started going
Did
into
you post
it.
this?
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta get
He posted something that I don't know, like not too bad or something. And he's following me.
Oh my God,
Yes.
I love it. That's unbelievable.
Yes.
Maybe I should start saying something.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I love
Casey
Skid
needs
Row.
more follows.
I did love in 8th grade when I was like, my mom would drive me around and they'd be like, here we go again. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that was a good one. That's a good song.
Going down the only road. Who doesn't love a little white snake? Real quick, before we get to the next thing. My Twitter picture for so long was the poison. Poison, yes.
Yep.
Yes. Can we go, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Can you go back to that Poison concert and what do you remember from that?
Nothing. So Poison Cinderella, and I was talking about
Winger.
Was it Winger?
Winger opened up.
We couldn't think of who the.
She's only, and also too, really quick.
She's only
How's
7.
that
that legal?
I was gonna say,
How's that okay?
you can never sing that song now. She's
No.
only 17.
No.
Daddy says she's too young, but she's
Yeah.
old enough.
Oh my God.
You're gonna go to jail.
Yeah. So the only thing I remember is it was in Chicago on an off day. Me, you,
Yep.
Adam Dunn,
Yep.
Todd Walker, and Aaron Boone.
Yep.
The only thing I remember is that picture, obviously, and Todd Walker chewing off the sleeves of my shirt because we wanted to look tough and have like sleevelessness. So I just bought the Poison shirt and he like chewed it off. Yeah, I asked him about it when I saw him.
Yeah.
When he did the podcast,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't remember doing that. I said, well,
Honestly, it was a great night.
yeah, we don't remember a lot. That was
That is fun. All three of you guys that have been on, I've talked about it, and none of you really have that great of a recollection of that night. It means it must have been a pretty good night.
It was a great night. It was a great
Last one, and this one will be the first time I've ever repeated a question on this air, but I will do it. Aaron Boone and Adam Dunn fall off a boat. You can only save one of them. Who do you save and why?
So You did this with Todd.
Yes, you. Yeah, we did.
Yes, so you don't have to answer.
Wait. Tell the story about the podcast I did with Todd. He doesn't know it.
So when you guys did the podcast with Todd Walker, he was in Omaha covering for the SEC Network College World Series.
Yeah.
Well, I was right down the hall covering for ACC Network, and I almost came in and knocked on the door and came in and jumped on with him. I was like,
that would have been awesome.
I told him to.
That would have been great. Nice.
So he told me, he's like, they asked me a question about who I'm saving, Adam Dunn or Aaron Boone. And he's like, I said, well, what'd you say? I can't remember what he said. He goes,
He said Boone because he's a manager and he wants to be a coach.
Yeah, he said Boone because he's a manager.
And he let Dunn die.
I got a new answer for this one. Go ahead.
Who I would save? I would go Adam. I would save Adam.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would because why? There's a lot of reasons, I think. One, Adam is like nicer and cooler. And, like Boone's great. I love Boone. He's sometimes too serious for me. Like I can't tell if he's serious or not. Like my first home run that I hit, and
Gravy hit a home run in Houston in the short porch.
My first big league hit was a homer, and
was that your first big league hit?
Yes.
Wow.
My second big league hit was a homer too.
Dude, every time I watch you take BP, I was like, poor guy, looks like he's swinging in the deep end underwater with that bat speed. And then you went deep. I'm like, what'd you hit? Is it a slider?
It was a fastball.
Fastball?
It was great for Mike Maddox's fastball. It wasn't very fast. Yeah.
What, 87?
Back-to-back 88.
80?
Pokey Reese just hit a 3-run jack. I throw 2 innings. We were like in the 11th inning.
Yeah.
I threw 2 innings. Pokey was hitting 8th. He hits a 3-run homer, so now we're up like 6-3, whatever it was,
right.
6-3. So Hal Morris was on the on-deck circle hitting for me. Well, Pokey hits the home run. Jack calls him back and says, like, you go hit.
Oh, my God.
So I grabbed Gookie Dawkins' bag. There's no marks on it because he can't hit it either. So I pick it up. I got no batting gloves on.
Oh, my God.
Mike Maddox throws one pitch, and I'm like, ooh, I kind of saw that. Like, usually I don't see it. If I'm bunting, I can see it. I can bunt good, but I couldn't hit. But I saw the first pitch, so he threw it another one, and it was like right here, and I like swung hard, and it went out. It was a homer.
That's amazing.
So I'm like,
I remember that. I'm like, if Danny Grayson go deep, anyone can go deep in the big leagues.
and then before he even touched home, they took him out. Larry Durker came out and took Mike Maddox. He's walking off the field before I even touched home plate. So, anyways, I come back in the dugout, and we're all like, Dimitri's like going nuts, and everybody's like smiling. Booney comes up and says, dude, still got to pitch another inning. I'm like, you jack-off, let me put this up for a minute. Like, seriously, you're going to tell me I got to pitch? I know I got to pitch another inning. I just pitch a homer. Yeah,
That's funny.
So, yeah, he's too serious sometimes.
Oh,
but,
God.
All right, so he's going
I
down.
was like, I'd be more afraid that if I didn't save Adam, he'd come back and push me over.
You have a new answer for this, Sean?
Huh?
Said,
Oh, yeah. Well, I have it different now because I've seen Dunner, and he's one of the toughest, baddest dudes I know. You know, like, I remember we would stretch. He'd always want to UFC wrestle me. I'm like, bro, you're hurting me. Like, I'm about to go on the 15-day DL because I can't say Adam Dunn had me in a freaking chicken wing. You know, next thing you know, I'm on the 60-day DL. And it's ridiculous. It's a Johnny Bench strong grits a holding a vice grip, you know? So we just had breakfast with Dunner, and, you know, he's just one of the biggest humans ever. I think if I left Dunner in the ocean, he could fight his way back. Like, he was shark comes, bam, there's a freaking right. So I'm going to leave Dunner because if Booney's out there, he's going to be dead in like 4 seconds. And Shark will come up and be like, oh, Aaron Boone, wham, this guy's the Booney. Like, ah! So you think I'm going to say Booney? Oh, no way, dude.
Okay.
I'm going to say he's a Californian. No, hey, I'm no, California.
He's just surfboard.
He's California surfing. I'm like, Booney, get on the boat. Only shot me guys that Dunner could just fend off for hours and just figure it out.
Dunner can just punch the shark in the nose. We'll be good.
Dunner just start unloading on people. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, that was great. That's it. We're done.
I love
All right.
it.
That was it. That was all 9.
Dude,
That was 9.
Last Gravy. I got 2. I can't let this end without a couple more questions. Okay. Give me the best Pete Harnisch story. He's one of the funniest human beings we've ever played with.
Yeah.
Is he naked? And is he naked?
Yes. Yeah. Of course he is. Well, one is like he would always be in the shower and he would do a handstand and let the shower hit
His butt.
his butt. You know, like a bidet, like an upside down bidet.
He would be like this. He literally would be like this with his hand. He's cleaning his butt. I'm like, it's unbelievable.
It's so talented because he's not very in very good shape. Although his heart was very good shape because he ran
run
so
all the
much.
time,
Like,
yeah.
Oh my
he
God.
could eat a large pizza. So, but to be able to do a handstand is unbelievable. But then the funnier story was, the wax machine, like the what's
Oh,
the
dude, this
You know where I'm going with
this is one of the greatest stories of all time.
Pete Harnisch, his onion bag was scrotum was the biggest onion bag in the history of the
It
world.
was down to his knees. It was like, dude, his balls are. It's ridiculous. It's like a fruit bowl.
Yeah, so he would be like, would you rather have $1 million or my onion bag full of nickels?
For years, it was
Yeah.
a couple of years he said that.
Yeah.
Would you rather have $1 million or my ball sack full of nickels?
Yeah. So, anyways, this wax, you put your hand in it and like
The Pierce Bromus wax machine.
Yeah, that's how you say it. I didn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
So he would get up and took his clothes off and he would
Oh my
straddle
God.
it. So he dipped his onion bag in the wax and pulled it back out and then took the wax off and it's the shape of his onion bag. You see the veins and everything.
Yeah, dude, it's
Unbelievable.
I remember that day. I was taping up my wrist, and I'm getting ready to go. The spring training game was like, I just want to go start the season, right? So I'm taping up my wrist, and I feel like something different. I look over, and Harnisch is on top of the freaking training table.
Yeah.
With the Pure Performance wax machine with
Yeah.
his nuts in it, and I'm like, "What are you doing,
What's
bro?" He's like,
happening right here?
"I'm gonna make a mold and see how many nipples we can fit in there." And the whole year we had it, he put it in his locker, and we would put change in it, and like after the games, they'd be like, "Hey Pete, how was the game tonight?" Like 8 1/3, 2 hits, But in the background, it was this big mold in his onion bag just sitting there in the locker. Like, that's unbelievable.
So Mark McGuire's locker had Andro in the back.
Yeah.
Pete Harnisch had his onion bag and wax in the back.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
A serious Pete Harnisch story, and he'll maybe be able to tell you better. But one year that you didn't start off very good.
Oh, yeah, 2000.
Hitting like 130 or
sucked.
the first couple months of the season. So him and Pete were like one of the last guys in the clubhouse, and so they're in the shower.
We were in the shower.
Just the two of them.
So funny.
And he's like so depressed. Like
I was crying.
Yeah,
No, I literally crying.
like wanted to jump off a cliff. Like and Harnisch basically was like, dude, like I hit 130. You don't hit 130. Look at the back of your baseball card or whatever he said to you, and the next thing you know, he's hitting 330.
Dude, first off, Pete Harnisch, one of my favorite teammates ever, great friend, so thankful. So thankful he was a veteran at the time. I don't think teams have enough of these good veterans.
Yeah.
Never forget it. I think he was in the middle of a handstand, getting his butt. He wasn't doing it for show. He does it when he's by himself.
Yeah.
I walk in the shower. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
He's in a full handstand cleaning his butthole. And I'm like, it's unbelievable. So I come in, literally, I'm crying, Chich. I'm like, he's like, what's wrong, Casey? Right? I was like, no, man, I suck. I'm like, freaking dude, I'm hitting a $180. He's like, God damn it, I don't know what to do. He's like, all right. He's like, let's break this down real quick. He's like, what are you hitting right now? I was like, it was like a $180. He goes, I was hitting 180. He goes, I hit 180. He goes, what'd you hit last year? I go 330. I hit 330, 99. That's 2000. I go 330. And he's like, all right. He goes, the back of the baseball card never lies. He goes, you're going to be somewhere around 330 at the end of the year. And I'm like, this guy has been cleaning his butthole too long. It's not on his brain. There's not water in his brain. There's no way I'm hitting freaking close to 330. I can't even get a hit. Well, he goes, the back of the baseball card never lies. Sure enough, I swear to God, from that point on, I ended up hitting 390 in the second half, and I hit 315 for the year. And I always use that to this day. Even on MLB Network, I'll be like, hey, listen, the back of the baseball card doesn't lie. When Freddie Freeman this year started off slow, I went to the Pete Harnisch shower talk, and I said, guys, I don't care what you say. The back of the baseball card doesn't lie. Freddie Freeman will be somewhere around, exactly. Now he's hitting over 300.
Yeah.
I said, he will be around 315 or above, so somewhere next. He'll find a way. And he's hit 450 in the last 2 months. That's Pete Harnisch knowledge right there.
Yes.
There you go.
Last thing, baby. The only Vietnamese-born big leaguer in the history of the game.
Yeah.
Am I correct by saying that's still there?
Yes.
So talk about that a little bit. What does that mean to you, your mom being from Vietnam, your dad, and what that means to you?
It's pretty crazy, man. Like, while I was playing, I didn't really think anything of it. Like, my whole story was, yes, my dad was in the war. During the Vietnam War, I was born, and we came back here.
Right.
Like, to me, that was who I was. And so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But, like, as my career went on, that was one of the things that people always talked about. And I'm like, wow, I guess that is pretty cool that I was the first and only one at this time. And so then I ended up going back to Vietnam with Bryant Gumbel and HBO Real Sports. We did a thing.
2006,
2006, yeah, and it was pretty intense, pretty emotional. And
what was emotional?
well, a lot of things. One, I took my mom back, and she didn't want to go back because of the memories. And like she has a sister there and a brother there. She wanted nothing to do with going back to Vietnam. She thought that if we went, that they would keep her because. Fall of Saigon, I don't know how familiar you are with the story. The Fall of Saigon, they told the military guys, get out now, or else, it's kind of like what's going on now with Afghanistan.
I was just going to say, Jesus.
Or you're stuck. So we got out right away.
So was she? They were taking helicopters off the roof, right? Was your mom in? Was she one of the people that?
We weren't one of those because that was.
And how old were you at the time?
14 months old. Wow. So those. All the video and stuff, that's like the last couple helicopters that remained in Vietnam. So we got out before that, like days before that on planes. So we didn't have to get stuck on trying to fight.
So your dad was in the military?
He was in the military. My mom worked at the U.S. Embassy at the time, so that's where they met. And so when they told us to get out, my dad's like, we're going. Like, we don't need any of this stuff. Let's get out of here. So we left. But my mom always felt like if we went back, they would keep her. Like they would, because the communist country. She thought that.
Chills.
She thought that if we go back, that they're not going to let us out of the country. Well, we went with people from Washington, and they said they can't keep you. We will make sure they don't keep you. So we even when we left there, filling out the paperwork with the passport and all that stuff. Like she was so nervous, and the guy that was in charge with the Vietnam government that was working with us that was there walked up to the person doing the passport and said something and grabbed our stuff and we walked away. Like it was just like that.
What?
Yes. So he's like, don't even mess with them and let us go. So my mom was relieved. She's actually gone back again since. But like it was a very intense moment because she was scared to death, like that they wouldn't let us go past that spot. But he said they're leaving. They're not staying here. But I got to hear a lot of stories from my mom there. It was 33 years that she wasn't there, so I left. 14 months old. We go back. I'm 33 or 34 now at the time. She hadn't seen her sister or brother since 1974 when we left. Like they'd talked, but hadn't seen her in person. So we got wind of when she was coming. So HBO and they all had the cameras on, like the exact moment that they saw each other for the first time in 33 years.
Oh my gosh! What was that? What was that?
Everybody was crying. Gumbel was crying. His wife was crying. I was crying. Like everybody that was around. Ezra, I can't remember his last name. He directed the O.J. Simpson movie that was out a couple years ago. He was the producer of the show. He was crying. Like everybody was like just in tears, and it was so amazing. Like,
oh my gosh.
So I could go on and talk about this.
What was it like over there in Vietnam?
It's a beautiful country.
Yeah. Were you over there to promote baseball? Were you over there to get your mom back?
No, to promote baseball. Yeah. And so one thing was to promote baseball. The other was there's a project. It's called Project Renew. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's still called that now, but at the time that's what it was. Where Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund would raise money to go and blow up live artillery. So at the time there was like 900,000 tons of live artillery, so rockets and bombs that were underground that never blew up, like from the war, like from decades ago. Wow. And as the years go by, the artillery is coming up and the rockets were starting to come up and they would blow up.
Oh my God!
So they would, so We built a field, and when they cleared that field, there was like 900 tons of live artillery on this baseball field.
What?
Yeah, a high school baseball field. So,
Oh my gosh, dude.
So they took us to this area where they had a lot of them blocked off, and like you could get close up and see, like there were rockets from like the planes and stuff, like literal rockets, and like, why are we standing here? Like,
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we went to this one village where they're like cement buildings, like for their homes, probably as big as this room right here. But that was enough for them, you know, in the village. And 2 weeks before we got there, this guy's village blew up because of one of the bombs that came up. So one of the people that were with us donated money to buy him a new house, and it cost like $3,000. And you would have thought he just won a gazillion dollars in the lottery. Like it was the most amazing thing. They were so grateful for that. But like, there's so many things happening still that, you know, are killing a lot of innocent people there because of the war. And you know, whatever people's views are against the war, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If it wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. So, you know, we even had somebody offer their baby to us.
Wow,
To
really?
bring home, yeah,
Wow.
because they knew we'd give them a better life in America. My mom was like, we can't take your baby. Like, you know, even if we wanted to, we couldn't. We can't take your baby. We went back to the apartment that we lived in.
Cool.
The people that were living there, they're on TV with us. Like, they let us come in and do the show in that house. And my mom was telling Brian Gumbel, like, she didn't tell me any of this stuff. Like, we never talked about this. Because my dad passed away in '99
Remember that?
and never talked about the war.
You never did?
Never.
So you never had a conversation with him?
No. And it was kind of known in our house, don't talk
I think
about it.
your mom didn't talk about it.
No, never. Until 2006 when we went back.
God.
So this is the first time you're hearing stories.
Yes. So she's like, see right here. She wasn't even telling me. She's telling Brian Gumbel, see right here. My husband, Jim, he was standing right here, and a bullet came right through our apartment
Oh, my
and
God.
just missed his head. I'm like, are you kidding me?
You've never told me this?
How am I just finding this out? Like, it was,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's so
God.
amazing.
Wow.
And it was just, I was just
Unbelievable.
grateful for the opportunity to go, and then more for my mom to be there,
Yeah.
you know, and because it kind of opened her eyes to like loving the country again. Like,
Yeah.
she wanted nothing to do with it. She's already
Yeah.
been back. She took my oldest son and she took my niece back
Wow.
there and
Great.
brought a bunch of stuff to the people that are playing baseball. It's been
And she's reconnected with her family, obviously.
yeah, yep,
That's
yeah.
great.
It's such a good thing that happened, and the baseball, it's not where they want it to be, but it's you know, they're trying to grow it. But
That's
so
awesome.
I'm saying I'm going to be the only Vietnamese born baseball player.
For a while.
For our lifetime, yeah.
Well, dude, I am so grateful to have this. Dude, this has been our longest podcast for good reason, dude. We could probably be here for 7 more hours.
We
but,
totally could.
dude, I love you so much. It is so good to see you. Going
Yeah.
back to the days, reminiscing about teammates and old times. It's just been great, dude. And let's do it again.
Yeah,
Let's do it again.
I mean, Chance, this was awesome, dude. You
No.
were great. I wish we could
Thank
do this like recording thing the whole time. But I know we're gonna keep talking.
No, that's great. You got to come back on. And man, I'm telling you, I'm dead serious. What you did for me and my friend that day is something I've never forgotten, and I'm so lucky to be across from you right now to tell you that. You really kind of helped jumpstart my career in this industry by that one simple day on that field. So thank you, bro. Seriously.
Hey, that like, it almost made me want to cry, man. That's awesome. Hey, we're connected forever now.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Just like
Absolutely.
we are. That's awesome.
Danny Graves impacting lives, still impacting lives today.
Yeah, there you go.
I love you too, man.
It's great seeing you,
Yeah.
man. It's so great.
Dude, this was awesome.
So
This
great
was
seeing
awesome.
you. All right, man. All right, Chinchy.
All right, boys.
Love you,
Danny,
brother.
hope to run into you in person one day, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks,
See you,
Jim.
man.
See you soon. I'll see you next week.